I'm Nat.
And I'm Guy. And massive political news coming out of the United States, Canada, and Mexico. A lot of people don't know what's coming out of Mexico, and I think it's going to have a big effect on the U.S. We'll get into all that in the geopolitical section, but we also got all the Candace Owens TPUSA drama. It just keeps evolving and getting more and more crazy.
And also, sadly, a story that hits kind of near and dear to our hearts because we lived in British Columbia in Canada, very close to Vancouver. So our thoughts and prayers are with the families of the victims. And also, we will talk about it. But because YouTube loves to censor that kind of stuff and censor the truth, we're going to have to do it a little bit later on in the show.
Yeah, and it's good to see Non's back, and I'm sure Rafa will be around, so hi to both of you. Let us know what you're cooking for dinner, because we missed out the last few days.
And we also have to say we are here very late because we had a lot of car issues today.
Oh.
We were essentially, I'm not going to say the brand name or car name because safety, but I will say our car keeps having battery issues. We changed the battery in the car and it still didn't start. We were left stranded in the middle of a not very nice part of Mexico City because we had to go find food for our dog, funnily enough. So we were there for a while and then it happened again afterwards in a parking lot. We were able to jump start at that time. And the first time it was just magic that it did start up after. But
well, the first time,
made our day a bit late.
The first time it was just magic. It started. We were there on the side of the road in front of somebody's garage, so we weren't supposed to be parked there. And I just start hitting things, and it magically starts. Luckily, and then I'm like, go home. I have a jump starter kit. I had a feeling it was a battery issue, so we got that. Then we went to the grocery store, and again, it didn't start at the grocery store, but this time we had the magic jump starter.
So that is why we're late, because all our day kind of backtracked quite a bit. We thought we were going to be able to do all of that in the morning, and we were not. But also, thank you so much for being here. And do remember, we read all the comments, and seriously, it's all the comments. So let us know what you think. After each segment, we go through all your comments, respond, reply, and talk to you as well. That's the whole point of having a live show. Otherwise, we would just do edited videos. And also, I will read Non's comments just because he sent them pretty early. He says, hey guys, sad day for Canada. Indeed, says, sorry to see it happen there. And I'm not surprised it happened there, but I will give comments about that later. Spokespersons keep saying they haven't been able to determine motive or they're not naming the perp. I'm sure you guys will have the latest. The name has been released. It has been also confirmed by an uncle of the person, but again, I'm not getting into it quite yet.
Also, the Canadian government never lets a tragedy go to waste. You know they're going to be coming after.
They've already started.
Yeah, after people's firearms. So.
And Non also says, and the file revelation, I will say for now, because we just started, seems the whole world has gone mad. And on that point, I will agree.
Yeah, and it's nice that we do start with personality politics and the Candace Owens story. That kind of gives us a minute to kind of get through the algorithm and the censors. And if we talk about more dynamic stories later on, sometimes they don't catch it. So
more sensitive subjects, I will say. So let's get into Candace Owens and personality politics. She has too much personality, in my opinion, and none of it verifiable.
I'm angry. I've had enough of these people.
And yes, we did watch her show today as well.
Yeah, I've been watching it every day. I used to really, really like Candace Owens. Anybody that watched this show knows I was firmly in that camp in the beginning. There was a point I just realized there was nothing there. But I continue to watch her show just to see if something comes up. And I continue to watch the sphere of other influences around her and what they're digging into. And it's just getting into wacky territory now. She's come up with this theory that there's a missing picture in the background of Charlie and his dog. And she has to re-examine all the evidence because she just realized this picture went missing.
Because she has nothing now.
It's absolutely insane. She's just outright making accusations at Erika now. I'm not a big fan of Laura Loomer, but she's saying, Erika, it's time to sue her. I don't know if it's time to sue her, but man, it may be time to sue her.
It was time a long time ago, in my opinion.
She's given her a lot of leeway, and so has TPUSA.
But I mean, TPUSA already sent out cease and desist letters. So that was the first step. And I'm guessing, as I've said before, and I've always been against this whole idiocy that has been Candace Owens and all the rabbit holes she's gone down. But this might be the first step to actually get a lawsuit. Like, it might have been like a preemptive strike, the cease and desist, and now they're just waiting to build up more of a case, and she's just giving it to
I
them.
really just don't think Erika ever wanted to file a case. They want to focus on the midterms. This is going to distract from that. And if they go into the midterms and into the summer, this is going to be a huge distraction. And knowing Candace Owens, if she is working for some intelligence agency like MI6, who her husband has a lot of connections to, she's going to want to blow this. She's going to want to blow this story up or distract from the midterms come the summertime.
But let's get into the craziness. From Nathan Livingstone from Milk Bar TV says, quote, Candace Owens with a Freudian slip gives the game away why she's actually attacking Erika Kirk. She meant to say that Erika betrayed Charlie, but instead said Erika appears to be doing that to me. Incredible when you think about it. Candace found nothing suspicious about Erika until Erika told her to stop, and then the flip switches. I think from the beginning this was her whole intent, to go after Erika. And after Charlie. Shortly after Candace met with Erika, TPUSA and Ben Shapiro opened America Fest, where he made a fool of Candace and called her out. And then he got called out too, so I will say that.
And I will say this, I've been at first I shied away from the theory that Candace was jealous of Erika, but I made that the title on the cover today because she just keeps inserting herself almost into their marriage. Oh, they're having a fight. Charlie was bringing me back into TPUSA. We were going to do big things. And it's just like, she's living in La La Land right
Shall
now.
we remember who was the first one that was saying that it was all about jealousy?
Yeah, it was you. No, it's always
If there was
right.
anything that could rile Charlie up, it's questioning his moral integrity. Yeah, they are very, very good people. Charlie and Erika are fantastic people. But I know that Charlie was very happy with Erika. She made him happy. And I just want you guys to know that. And so when you're putting stuff out there, just imagine that you're in her shoes. Imagine the size and the scale of that company. And imagine that on top of everything, you've got people that are digging into every layer of your life and not necessarily getting everything right. This is a woman who consulted a priest and prayed when she felt that somebody had put a hex on her husband. And I just think everyone is being a little unfair by trying to assign so much ill will towards someone who hasn't done anything to warrant that. And I just really just feels to me like it's unfair. She has not come out and said anything to me that makes her suspicious. I would have been the first person if I felt that anything was there. What lie has Erika told that I'm supposed to be focused on? I haven't seen any reason to do that. I said early on, if Erika Kirk asks me to be quiet, I will be quiet.
And you're making hundreds and thousands of dollars every single episode going after the people that I love. No, stop. To stop.
This is why there are many people who do not believe that women are equipped to lead companies.
Stop. That's it. That's all I have to say. Stop.
We are doing a couple of episodes to separate fact from fiction when it comes to the background of Erika Kirk. Something is not right. That she has been orchestrating this entire PR campaign. I've seen enough. Erika Kirk should be dragged into a police precinct for questioning amount of evidence that is now piling up. I would say against Erika Kirk, allowing Ben Shapiro to open that AmFest behind her. I said that was my clue something was wrong. Basically, Erika here is pulling the LBJ. And what I mean by that is as soon as LBJ got into office after JFK's assassination, he reversed course on every single one of JFK's policies. JFK's enemies seemingly became LBJ's friends. Erika appears to be doing that to me. Strongly, I know for a fact, Charlie was like Ben. Erika appears to be doing that to me.
Yeah, and I just wanted to play that whole clip one after another so you kind of see the progression of her thought chain. And kind of, I even stuck with her after she started kind of turning on Erika, but at some point there was nothing there. I was never a big fan of Erika. That being said, I did like TPUSA when Charlie Kirk was there, but I've become more and more sympathetic to Erika because of Candace Owens and the way she's constantly attacking her with literally no evidence but a feeling and a dream.
Well, it's absolutely disgusting because it's also not like Erika is just another TPUSA employee. She is the widow of Charlie Kirk, who also has to now try to manage a whole company and figure out how to move forward now that her husband isn't here, and trying to continue to proliferate her husband's message and the whole point of Turning Point USA and not lose that either. So I've always kind of been on Erika Kirk's side. I think everybody attacking her is actually pretty disgusting.
Maybe Candace,
even if you don't like her, it's not the time.
Maybe Candace Owens is MLK Jr. reincarnated. I had a dream.
She's been talking about dreams for quite a while now, and all the dreams and connections that she and Charlie had. It's just starting to be, in my opinion, way too obvious.
Yeah.
For anybody that has eyes or two neurons that can do critical thinking of what her actual motivations are, and that she's just scorned. A woman scorned will.
Okay, let's keep going with it
break
because I want to show all the layers that have kind of come out over the last few days. It's like nothing burger after nothing burger, but Candace pumps it up like it's the next big thing. She has evidence. They need to go to court now.
But she also gets like pumped up by YouTube and the algorithm. So why is also?
Well, no, it's God. Remember, she said it's God. God. This is God's channel. God's pumping my numbers, not the intelligence agencies.
So Nathan Livingstone says, quote, Candace Owens' smoking gun that she thinks will get Erika Kirk dragged into a police precinct. Allegedly, Erika Kirk's friend had a bad feeling about the UVU event. According to a tip Candace says she received, that friend told her daughter, who worked as an assistant for the Kirks, that she decided not to go to work that day.
And we can hit play on this one.
Hold on. I had to put on my headphones.
Oddly, however, what we can confirm to you is Erika's best friend and her assistant did have fear for some reason. Charlie's good. He's excited, but they had fear. For some reason, Tracy Martin told her daughter, who's Erika's assistant, not to go to this event. They pulled her back because Tracy senses danger. So if Tracy pulled her daughter back from going to work or going to the event on Wednesday morning, then presumably Erika, her daughter's employer or boss, would have been made aware. You presumably would have had to say something. Maybe the conversation, hey, what are you doing staying behind here in Arizona? Didn't I tell you to go help Charlie at UVU? There's not to be some sort of a conversation. And if you're wondering why at all Erika's assistant would be traveling with Charlie, it's because she also doubled as an assistant on Charlie's show. And the whole gang was there. Remember, Charlie's show. Blake Neff's there. They're bringing everybody. Amazing Mikey McCoy is there. Wow, kind of weird that she wouldn't tell her work colleagues.
And pause it for a second. And it's just her tone of voice and the way she does it. She just implies and narrates like there's something suspicious here. There's something going on. And because I was on her side for so long, you can only go with it for so long before you say, okay, what is there?
That's what I've been saying for months that you didn't want to listen to. Go back and look at some of our previous Candace Owens episodes. Thank you.
Hey, maybe don't go. My mom's got a bad feeling. I have all of these questions, but you see, I'm not a police officer. I don't work for the feds. And so I don't have a right to ask them outside of this podcast. Erika should be dragged into a police precinct. Tracy Martin should be dragged into a police precinct. Her daughter should be made to sit and answer basic questions about this intuition. Messages should be shared, shown. Everyone figure out how this happened. That's where I'm at on this. She needs to be questioned. Erika needs to be questioned.
Well, hold on. She was dragged into a police precinct. It was called the Precinct of Candace Owens. I remember she voluntarily came to see you to answer any questions. Did you not answer? Did she not let you ask the questions you wanted to ask, or what happened there? Because now it seems like nothing's ever enough with Candace Owens.
And because basically she had nothing the past 2 days, while she was also attacking TPUSA for the halftime show and trying to sound very jealous of the numbers, she has also now concocted a theory, thanks to another one of her fans, about a certain picture that was and then wasn't in Charlie Kirk's study.
Well, and it's not that she has nothing. She'll find somebody that she hasn't investigated yet. She might have investigated these 10 people and found nothing with these 10, but there's a new figure. There's a husband of a wife that we now need to investigate. I need you to help me. That's how she frames this thing. It's just going to be a big nothing burger where you're literally destroying these people's life because you're doing open investigation online with millions of people watching, plastering these people's photos all over the place. I was willing to give leeway and even go with it in the beginning if there was something, but there's been so many people you've investigated at this point, nothing's come up. Maybe it is time for Erika Kirk to sue her because she needs to stop ruining people's lives here. Yeah, and I was sympathetic to the idea that maybe something else went on with the shooter. At this point, I would just wait for the court case and that will be it, because Candace Owens has really dug up nothing.
Which is what everybody with common sense has been saying since the beginning. Just wait until the trial. Wait until the evidence that they can't release right now to you or to anybody else, because that's not how police investigations work. And then ask the questions. But wait until the full evidence comes out that they can't release right now, because it would ruin the case.
Yeah. Oh, and I'll say this is apple juice.
Oh, yeah, it looks like a shot.
I'm trying to cut down on my sugar, and usually my cup's filled with apple juice. But now I just want to have a little bit at the beginning of the show, and hopefully it gets me through the whole thing. But I don't know.
If I
Water
sugar,
just doesn't cut it for me.
No, if I cut sugar, I wouldn't exist. But let's go see this new theory, because again, she has to continue to come up with the new things because there's nothing there, but she has to keep the grift going and the money, even though she says she doesn't care about money. From Jordan S90 says, so this is the gotcha moment Candace is rolling out, that Erika Kirk took a wedding photo out of Charlie Kirk's office to put it in a more cherished place. That's all you got, Candace? That's the smoking gun? That's what you hyped up as your end-all be-all? And again, over the past 2 days, that's all she's been talking about on X.
Yesterday, it was all about somebody's husband. So I was like, okay, maybe they investigated, maybe something comes up. Now you're literally looking into a picture in the background that's no longer there, that Erika probably took out of Charlie's office to bring next to her bed so she can remember him. And now you're saying you have to re-examine every single piece of evidence, because that's what she said today. I have to re-examine everything because this should have been the first piece of evidence, and it shines a new light on everything. It's a picture of Charlie with a dog.
Like, and this is what I told, I told you when this whole thing came up, that it seems like Candace, either because of some type of mental disorder or something else, has never really loved anyone. Because of course that would be the first thing you think about if the picture disappeared. It's because Erika took it to have him closer to her.
One that you're seeing there. Well, then fast forward to December 12th, and as a part of her Shabbat Shalom PR Blitz, she conducted her very first interview from Charlie's home office. She gave that interview to Glenn Beck. And during that interview, she was playing the part, as you are about to see, of this is my first time back in his office. And she keeps looking down and she says, sorry, I'm looking down. I'm just looking at all of these things that Charlie left over on his desk. The obvious insinuation to the public being that she had not yet traversed into that space. She had not gone through the things. She had not seen the last things that he wrote on the notepad. And yet, curiously, that wedding photo is missing. Okay, the internet was one that you're seeing there.
And she also came up with this whole theory, at least on X, because for some reason her posts still show up for me, even though I don't follow her anymore, that part of the reason why she took the picture out is because a few days before Charlie got assassinated, a priest had visited them to work on their marriage, or something ridiculous.
Well, it was crazy because she's like, the picture went missing. The night before, I just have this feeling they got in a drag out fight, and then Charlie wanted to bring me back. And almost implying that Charlie wanted to bring Candace back into TPUSA, and this caused this fight. And like, she's inserting herself into this thing like she's married to Charlie Kirk.
Like she's the main character syndrome, but like on an exponential global scale and level.
But I do keep covering this story because I don't want people to. I was once on Candace Owens' side firmly, if you watch our old episodes, and I just woke up at some point. But I firmly keep covering it because Candace keeps covering it, and a lot of people that don't know what she covers might be like, she must have something if she's covering it for like 6 months or however long it's been now.
She has money, that's what she has.
But there's less and less and less there every time. She's literally selling shadow fairy tales about pictures that are going missing. The picture has nothing to do with anything. It's not like there's a mystery person in the picture.
But also she has, after the All-American halftime Super Bowl show that TPUSA put on, she's also been crying about that and continues to cry about that. Everybody else has moved on about it, but her.
Well, yeah, again, main character syndrome. She keeps inserting herself into this story as well, running cover for Bad Bunny.
Yeah, now she's gone full on face mask, mask off moment where everybody has been calling her a leftist for a long time. And her true intentions seem to be coming clear because she's only defending the left. She's defending the Charlie Kirk's assassin, which I can't mention what he is, but again, what he is. And now Bad Bunny too, and the halftime show, the Super Bowl.
Well, we do show on this show a lot, especially in our religion section, which will come up in a little bit. But the left is trying to put it on the skin suit of religion right now. They want to build a moral foundation that's not coming from the government, that's coming from somewhere else, because people have seen through them. I firmly think Candace is drifting in that direction, and she's going to help the left put on that skin suit of religion. Yeah. Possibly.
They need a religion that they can control even further. But Reverend Jordan Wells says, Candace Owens has become useless. Her entire purpose now seems to be positioning herself as the enemy of everything good in the conservative movement. She was off hating on certain people for a bit, but now her full-time job is relentlessly attacking Turning Point USA on her podcast every day. And yeah, that's basically all she has been doing and going against them, even after a massive success for the, not massive success in terms of numbers, but just the fact that the boycott was at least helpful and that actually something happened with it. That should alone be called a success. And again, I'm not, for everybody in the comments later, I'm not a TPUSA shill. I'm just saying, take the wins when you can get them. But let's see what she said.
I watched your show. It was great. How did you do? Do you have a sense of how many people watched?
She's so giddy too.
It was kind of blew our minds actually a little bit, Brian. And we saw at one point across all the different social channels, we saw over 10 million concurrent views. So that was adding up all of Rumble and all of our partners just on the social side. So, and now the numbers keep trickling in. I mean, right now as I'm sitting here, YouTube's numbers keep updating. And so we're trying to put it all together. What I can safely say is that we are now over 20 million viewers across just social. So we haven't even gotten our partner broadcasters, their analytics. As you know, sometimes the ratings take a little while, but that's 20 million viewers. And we don't know how many people were gathered together, 3, 4, 10 in a room watching together. So we're going to try and put a final number on that when we can. What we can safely say is over 20 million Americans tuned into the All-American Halftime Show tonight.
That's what he can safely say. Now, for people who have been on YouTube, YouTubers, so to speak, like myself, for more than 10 years, I was just in awe that they were going to try to sell this, that they were going to do what he did with his face and just lie and pretend that 6 million, I think even at one point to 10 million, but it says 6 million concurrent viewers they had on YouTube alone, okay? If you know YouTube at all, that's just not true on its face. It's actually, I laughed when I saw it. Like, this is
and we're going to continue to play this clip, but she's gone into this multiple days now in depth. She just will not believe that TPUSA got more numbers than her. She's directly comparing her numbers to their numbers, not understanding why they don't have so many comments. The majority of the people watched it on TV, came from the Super Bowl. I usually leave comments when I watch videos because I know it helps the creator. That being said, I didn't say anything on TPUSA because I was trying to watch the game. I was trying to watch the alternative halftime show with Bad Bunny because I knew we had to talk about it.
Actually crazy. I can't believe they're actually going to try to pull this off. And I'm going to walk you through this so you don't even have to have my background on YouTube to understand why this number is impossible. First and foremost, you can just do this test. What do we have? Right now, we have 95,000 people that are watching this show. As soon as this show concludes, I want you to see how many views YouTube is going to instantly give it right away. It's probably going to be something like 200,000 to 300,000 views right away as it continues to tabulate. This is a screenshot of their viewership. After 6 million people, now the official list of the top YouTube streams based off of concurrent viewership. We're going to go through this list so that you fully appreciate what you are being asked to believe. Everything is a rich man's trick. That's what's happening right now. This is the highest live concurrent viewers on YouTube. People who are divided because they just don't like what Turning Point USA has become since Charlie was assassinated, and that their loose association, their loose relationship with the truth since Charlie was assassinated. They want you to believe that in spite of all of that, they are now, they're number 2. They broke the record. So bye-bye football around the world. It's now Turning Point USA. 6 million people turned in live to watch their Kid Rock and
okay,
Bryce
and you can leave it there. And this was a cultural political event, and conservatives wanted to support that halftime show. To think they have 6 million, that's not that many considering the NFL had 125 million, and half of those were conservatives. Even if you only get a fraction of that, you easily hit the 6 million. Now, a lot of the numbers that are coming out, TPUSA, yeah, maybe they didn't get 50 million or 40 million. 6 million is very easy for me to believe at this point. And when you start looking at the algorithms and how different people, like I would even say, if you take a look at Nick Fuentes, his numbers look very odd as well because people have to directly go search out his show because he is so censored. When it comes to TPUSA, people were directly going to look out that show and they were watching it on televisions where it's very hard to leave comments.
Who sits in front of their TV with a keyboard? I mean, yes, you could also go on your phone and leave a comment if you wanted, but the comments thing is dumb. But the viewership thing is also dumb.
The comments aren't that dumb.
But like the fact that she can't process that most people are watching it on the TV.
Yeah, but usually I check comments to see if it's primarily bots. So it usually is a good indication. In this case, it's not because this was a very specialty event with the Super Bowl. People were going to watch on their TVs. People were coming over very, very quickly just to watch that halftime show and then go back. So it's one of those times you're really not expecting to get a lot of comments.
And the numbers have also come out for Bad Bunny's halftime show, at least preliminary ones, and it's not the numbers that they were saying initially either.
Yeah, they're trying to sell what people were when people were watching the game as watching the halftime show.
But there was a dip.
There was a huge dip, and they don't want that to really get out. WDW Pro covered that today. Yes. I think you're on there tomorrow.
Yes, so watch me tomorrow at 12 Eastern on WDW Pro's channel, probably, hopefully. But she continues, Candace Owens continues, From Cinema Shogun, quote, Candace Owens is currently having a mental breakdown, because again, she keeps posting about this.
1 second. We do have a few more layers of this story and the Candace Owens drama with TPUSA, and then we are going to go into geopolitics. There is a ton of heavy news in geopolitics today in Mexico, Canada, and the United States. So...
but yes, she continues to lose her mind over the TPUSA halftime show because it did better than her. And she thought she was always going to be number one.
She keeps making these videos about this halftime show, and she's just completely trying to break it down. Oh, they filmed it 2 weeks ago. They were serving tacos here. These were paid people in the audience. Okay, this was a trial run. Next year, they're going to do it bigger. They had to make sure it could be a success first. I even commented I would have liked to see more of a live show or a watch party at a stadium. At this point, I think they could sell out a stadium if they had a big enough headliners.
And they only had 5 months to put it on as well.
Okay, you guys, so we made a pretty unbelievable discovery, and unbelievable as in you should not believe it. What we're being told, we're able to confirm something. And I can say it is definitively time, if this is a true investigation, for police to question Erika, to ask Erika specific questions about what she knows, what she didn't know. The circumstances are adding up, and I'm going to share with you guys what I discovered. And I think that you shouldn't trust anybody who's telling you that this is not weird. Something is very, 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 very wrong with this picture. As we start to examine her relationship with Tracy Martin, also had a discovery that was made by a TikToker that I'd like to reveal to you. I have been staying locked in focus. Everyone's trying to drag us into different directions. I'm locked in here trying to figure out what happened to Charlie Kirk. So join us using the link below. Okay, you guys, so
maybe stay locked in. Maybe have your husband, tie a t-shirt around you so you can't move your arms.
Like she's just so committed to this. If she even said today, TPUSA just needs to cut their ties and do a shift. They didn't have to do a halftime show. She's the one that needs to do the shift. Now's the time. Erika's been very nice to her, and she doesn't have a lawsuit. She's let her dig into all of these things. Now it's time to kind of make a shift. A lot of her supporters, like me, that were once on her side, have kind of shifted away, and at this point, I'm just exposing the ridiculousness that she's continuously playing out. And it's going to be like the picture of the dog or the wedding photo behind her in the office. I can't even comprehend what could possibly come out of this. Nothing. A nothing burger is the only thing that can come out of this.
And again, people do continue disproving her. And Graham Allen says bombshell data proving Candace Owens is lying and TPUSA did not, quote unquote, fake their numbers. They have the #1 live stream event ever, and that hurts her a lot, I think, and that's why she's going after them. And it was 100% real.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have exclusive information absolutely destroying the Candace Owens narrative that Turning Point faked their viewers, saying that the views to comment ratio do not make sense. Just like I reported earlier today, here is the actual analytics. You will see that the number 59% was on TVs. People were watching it on their TVs, Candace. That's why the comments don't match the views, because they were watching it on their TVs. This is what actual evidence looks like. Turning Point USA not only dominated and sent a shockwave through the world, especially the NFL.
And why are they watching it on their TVs? Because they were watching the football game on their TVs, and then they switched over and came back. When I'm watching something on my TV and I want to leave a comment, I actually have to go search for my phone, get my phone, and then leave the comment. And I'm not on a time restriction where I know the game's going to start again, or the other halftime show, which a lot of people wanted to compare.
And apparently Candace Owens, they have the #1 live stream of all time. Absolutely incredible. This is real evidence. These are real facts. Absolute staggering numbers. Breaking news.
Yeah, and it was #2, I believe. I believe the Indian space launch got...
No, that was worldwide. In the USA, it was #1.
In the US.
Yes. But I mean, that's, again, the most important market that the NFL should be actually vying for. But I am sick and tired of seeing so many people trying to defend Candace by saying, oh, that person's just a TPUSA shill. And it's not like TPUSA is perfect either, but they have achieved quite a big thing, not just with the All-American halftime show, but in general, the mission that Charlie had and the actual change he did. We are seeing a lot of Gen Z become more conservative, especially men, start to think more about the importance of family, the importance of faith. That was not all, but in big part thanks to Charlie Kirk and to a bunch of other also independent creators. But he was kind of one of the first ones that started doing that.
Yeah, I do think TPUSA has to get back to their core mission of debate. I think they should bring that online and kind of expand that, especially going into the summer and then the midterms. I think there's a lot of room to like pitch debate to the mainstream. Right now, it's a fringe online thing, but it has a huge community that I think they can really tap into if they put a little bit of money there, and they have a lot of money right now. Yeah. Maybe put the mic a little bit closer.
In front of you. I keep hitting it. Because you changed my mic position.
I know. Maybe I shouldn't have, because it's going to be hard for you to understand how a mic works.
Hey.
Oh, sorry, I'm mansplaining.
but I was going to say, again, like I see a lot of the comments, and I know I shouldn't respond to the comments that are negative, but for people calling us, TPUSA shills, etc., I didn't even like the All-American halftime show. That's not my kind of music. I am from Mexico. I'm more inclined to like something more like reggaeton. I don't like Bad Bunny, but I think the importance, again, of what was built, what was done, and what was shown as well should kind of shut up the woke right for a little bit. And the priorities are completely skewed now. Like, you should be caring about continuing and furthering the conservative message in general to Americans, and maybe also even an international audience. But I like TPUSA because it's inspiring to me what Charlie built to do maybe here in Mexico or somewhere else.
Yeah, for me, not as much after Charlie kind of left. I'm not big into TPUSA. That being said, what they did for that Super Bowl halftime show was huge, and it was proof of concept. Yeah, it was a little bit more orchestrated than I would have liked. I would have liked more... be a little bit more live and real and an outdoor event. It was just a lot of light, smoke.
But if they had a lot more time, I think they could have managed.
Well, they know it's going to be a success if they do it next year, so I think they're going to do it a lot different next year. They played it safe this year, and it was smart of them to play it safe, because if it would have failed, it would have made headlines as well. Luckily, it did succeed, and I think next year is going to be even bigger. Good on TPUSA for doing what they did there, because what's going on at the Super Bowl is ridiculous. Jay-Z keeps hijacking the halftime show at the Super Bowl, and I said it yesterday, I'm going to say it again. If TPUSA keeps getting bigger, maybe the Super Bowl will fire Jay-Z and go to TPUSA and have them run the halftime show.
I think that's a bit of wishful thinking.
Well, wishful thinking. Okay.
But, I mean, Jay-Z is in hot water right now, has been for a while and continues to be. But, I mean, they selected him right after the whole George Floyd thing out of, social justice and DEI and et cetera, et cetera. And we've seen the change in halftime shows. I did a whole thing in my Spanish show comparing the shows before him all the way from 93 to, 2019. And then the change where it was very diverse, but it actually looked very similar, and it was similar kinds of music and etc. Yes, I'm moving on. From Cinema Shogun, quote, Candace Owens made excuses for Bad Bunny wearing dresses while she hated on the TPUSA halftime show. Again, showing the actual colors and the actual purpose of what she's doing and why she's being promoted by YouTube so much. Because she's actually helping them with their narrative.
Well, and at this point, it really looks like going into the midterms, she's trying to undermine TPUSA, and she's trying to get that traction. And that's why I think it's upsetting her so much that this Super Bowl halftime event was so successful. It shows that she's not doing her job if she is working for a handler.
When Bad Bunny was announced, there was immediately backlash because he has worn a dress, something that I'm very against, because to me, it is obvious why they find these men and they put them in dresses. This gets into theology regarding which he's probably not aware of. If I'm being honest, if I sat down with Bad Bunny and I spoke to him about where this comes from and why they are putting him in a dress to emasculate him, he's not recognizing this as somebody else's faith. It is. When Bad Bunny was announced, there was immediately backlash.
Oh no, believe me, Bad Bunny knows. I mean, I think we said it last show, but we didn't say it last show, his whole record label was started by one of the security military personnel of the Chavez regime in Venezuela and from Nicolas Maduro as well. So he is literally a plant to further the narrative of communism into the U.S.
Well, and he has a 90-10 split in his record contract. That money is getting funneled to NGOs, to other countries. It's not going primarily to Bad Bunny. Artists just don't get 90-10 splits. This is an industry plant in the purest sense of the word.
Communist plant.
Yeah.
But I mean,
and I just want to say that was just one clip of her kind of running cover, because if it was anybody else in a dress influencing kids, she would have been all over him. But because she's trying to pitch him as the counterpoint to TPUSA here. She was running cover for the last 2 days on her show. And it's like, I could have had more sympathy for her if she could have been just as hard on Bad Bunny, and she just wasn't. She would say what was wrong, and then she would run cover for him to kind of excuse the behavior.
Well,
but when it's TPUSA serving tacos at their show, oh no, that's just un-American.
But somebody that did have a different opinion, funnily enough, and continues to have them, was Stephen A. Smith. Quote, Jack says, Stephen A. Smith goes off on the Bad Bunny halftime show, says Americans would have rather watched anything else. And a lot of Latinos too. Like, this doesn't get played enough in the US, but a lot of people from Latin America don't like Bad Bunny because of his communist ties.
Well, and again, Stephen A. Smith is a liberal. He's actually rumored to potentially run for president in 2028 if something happens to Newsom or something else. That being said, he's not my cup of tea, but he is at least a common sense, more traditional liberal, and he brings common sense to that party. Even if he doesn't run for president, he's going to be an asset to the Liberal Party to try to bring common sense back there and maybe infuse populism back into the left, much like Trump did to the right.
I'm going to have to play like this because we did get dinged last time we played anything that has to do with Bad Bunny or the Super Bowl.
If most people don't understand the lyrics because you're speaking it in what they deem to be a foreign language, that is a legitimate point that the president made. That part. That doesn't mean they had a problem with it. I'm just saying his statement that most people didn't understand anything he was saying. There's millions upon millions of Americans that would have wanted to hear something in English other than Lady Gaga. That is true. And me personally, been nice to see J-Lo out there. Been nice to see Shakira out there. Been nice to see a few people celebrating their Hispanic heritage, no doubt. But it also would have been nice if some of the songs were in English. That's all. The president is speaking on behalf, or was speaking on behalf of tens of millions of Americans who are like, I didn't understand a word he was saying because I don't know Spanish. That is a valid point. That is a valid point.
Yeah, and that's just common sense, even coming from the left. A lot of politicians, especially in the political wing of the left, they just won't say that at all. It's a completely unacceptable view. Nobody's going to challenge Stephen A. Smith on that because he is a bit of a heavy hitter when it comes to the culture of the left.
But also, nobody asked real Latinos, not Hispanic Americans, but actual Latinos, what they think about Bad Bunny, because what a lot of people have been saying now is that it would have been so easy to bring Pitbull in. I mean, they didn't do it when they did J-Lo and Shakira, when they did it in Miami, but they could have brought him in for this. You could even keep Ricky Martin if you want. Most people do like Ricky Martin, and you can understand what he's saying. And he has songs in English and Spanish, and you can understand him.
Yeah, but kind of get Ricky Martin away from the stuff he was spouting at the Super Bowl, because anybody that knew the translation,
Live la vida loca, just sing that.
Yeah,
with Pitbull. But with Pitbull, it's also funny that a lot of people haven't heard him, but he has said a lot of pro-America messages saying, if you don't like America and if you're not grateful for everything you've gotten from America because he's Cuban, then go back to the country that you so much say you want to go back to. I wish I had that clip to show it, but he said that in several concerts.
Yeah, but the Super Bowl was in San Francisco. It was the woke Super Bowl. All the boxes were filled with stars. Those stars had nothing but good things to say about Bad Bunny. But if anybody's seen the audience there, the actual people, not the elites sitting in the skyboxes, they were stunned, silent. They couldn't even see the show on the field because the way the set was designed, this thing was a disaster.
And that just makes it obvious as to the intentions of the NFL. Yes, we know the NFL is trying to globalize themselves and get a wider audience outside of the U.S. Who knows why? Because nobody really cares that much about American football. But
it's not about who knows why. It's a business, and obviously they want to, just like the UFC wants to.
But what I was getting at was that it was basically a music video taping session. And that makes it very clear that it was for those at home and not for the ones that paid a bunch of money to be there in the stands. Before, they used to let people rush in to the show.
Well, and I kind of brought this up because Candace Owens has been extremely critical of the TPUSA production, completely ignoring the production of what happened here. The people in the stands paid thousands of dollars for these tickets. This production was geared towards people watching it on their TV, not live in the stands. It was a disaster for people that did watch it live.
Ali says, quote, the issue no one's talking about with the halftime show is how it's basically now just a live music video taping session.
Honestly, the real tragedy of Super Bowl halftime shows is how we've turned them into live music video taping sessions. And no, it's not like Bad Bunny was the first example of this or anything, but I do think that he's one of the most egregious. Like, I think The Weeknd may have been one of the worst examples of it when they had him in that sort of weird House of Mirrors type thing that gave everybody motion sickness. But I mean, for the Bad Bunny one, even though it looked super cool on TV, they were literally piping in fake crowd noise to pretend that the crowd was going wild and everyone was screaming and cheering because the crowd couldn't see anything with him back in this grass stuff. And I think this just points to a broader point about how we're now experiencing absolutely everything as anticipated content. Nothing is really about the live experience of it anymore because the photos and videos of whatever the day was are worth more to us than the actual memories themselves. Like, we do this a lot with weddings these days. It's not enough just to get a couple good shots that the photographer manages to get. You have to have these extremely tight, orchestrated sessions of just absolutely everything. It's not enough to have memories. You have to make memories, even though they're totally inorganic, and even though they sometimes come at the actual expense of whatever the live experience is. And I think the frustrating thing about this, at least in the Super Bowl context, is that you can make an extremely memorable TV-ready production that's on a stage or just on the field itself. Kendrick did it, Beyonce did it, and Eminem did it. But it does require actually caring about and prioritizing what's happening in the moment, and more we just don't.
Yeah, and it's not just with weddings and things like that, and that has a broad context what she's talking about, but I kind of brought it up to talk about Candace Owens, trying to find some kind of evidence that will hit an emotional tone with the general public, rather than having nothing after nothing after nothing. If she can just find something that people can emotionally connect to, then she can undermine all of TPUSA, and that's really what it looks like she's trying to do at this point. And I really think she's working for the Democrats or MI6 at this point through her husband, because her main target seems to be to undermine TPUSA before the midterms.
Well, it has been since Charlie was assassinated, and a lot of people don't want to see that, but it's
just a great way to honor his memory. I don't know.
But I will say on the points that she was making, Ali was making, I think, I'd watched that video before, and I think it is very important to remind ourselves that we've been trained now almost to live for the camera, which is kind of what we're doing right now. But in weddings, and I do, like, when I see people out or in concerts or in even like classical musical concerts, everybody's there with their phones, but they're not living in the moment. Or seeing even the boomer generation now, they're always on their phones. I mean, I have family members that they don't pay attention to you, and they're worse than when I was a teenager and people would tell me, get off your phone, and they're just disconnected. I make a very consistent point of not looking at my phone if I'm surrounded by people, or at least with one other person, but people have forgotten how to do that now.
Well, the other day I did go to a classical orchestra or something, not normally something I would do, but here in Mexico City, just to see these venues where they play is absolutely phenomenal. So we went to watch it, and very few people had their phones. There was one or two people, I will say. They were very respectful. They kept them away, and it's much different than when you go to young people at a concert. They kind of want to live in the moment.
But let's read your comments because we're done with the Candace.
Well, yeah, and if you have any comments, leave them. We do read them all at the end of every section. This is the end of the personality politics section, so let's get into it.
So Nan says, man, we were gone for 3 days and we're exhausted from our trip. We are serious rock hounds. I made some seasoned brown rice and quinoa to eat with some chicken and refried beans and fixins.
Man,
not exciting.
That is healthy.
That sounds a lot better than what I basically eat.
I eat fairly healthy.
I don't.
Yeah, but I eat healthy because I have back issues. Yeah.
I eat sugar, which I shouldn't, and I speak against doing that. But
I get a lot of swelling in my disc in my back if I have sugar, bread, and things. So
carbs,
it really forces me to eat a lot of meat, a lot of vegetables, which I like. So
and I tolerate carbs really well, which is not that good.
But I do miss eating sitting down eating a ton of cheesecake or something like that.
I hate cheesecake. Nan also says, love it, the clip for personalities. I'm angry and I've also had enough of these people. And that's why we picked it. That was your idea.
Yeah, and I just love that song. That is my favorite song. And man, if we wouldn't get dinged, I would use it as the opener on our countdown clock. But we can't because we'll get dinged.
No. And we'd have to ask for the creator.
Yeah, but even if you ask, I think YouTube may ding you anyways. That's the thing.
Does it. Nan says that she's being controlled by God and MI6.
Yeah.
God told her, and MI6 too.
MI6 is her God.
That or the Democrat. I mean, who knows?
You would think MI6 and the Democrats actually have very similar motivations, and it's to undermine a populace getting into office after Donald Trump. So whether that means getting Gavin Newsom in there or getting Marco Rubio in there or whoever it is, and the midterms are going to be a huge point here. Trump is having all kinds of success in his first year. That being said, I don't know if it's going to be enough for the midterms because there hasn't been a president in modern history that has won the midterms. If you're a sitting president, you always lose.
Sirius says, finally, hopefully Candace can find something worth listening to, or find something she says that's worth listening to. I don't think so. I mean, this is very similar to other things she's done. I mean, not that everything she's done is terrible. I did like her whole jibby jab expose, although now I would have to go back and actually double check information.
I'm not gonna trash on her as much as you are. Maybe I like a lot of the things she's just done. I still watch her, but now that I've kind of seen through her with this TPUSA thing, man, it's hard to watch her. And I wish she would pivot to something else. So maybe I could be a fan again, or just like. It's just hard to watch her going down rabbit holes that have nothing there. And in the beginning, it was like, okay, maybe there's something here, especially the way she's pitching it. But now she's pitching things that I don't see any way that there's anything there.
That make no sense. Sirius also says, I love Owens' work, but she's stuck on this. And she's stuck on this because I think she dug such a deep hole and she has so many people waiting for something. She concocted this narrative that she was going to find this, and this is the smoking gun, and this piece of information is very important. And when it turns out to be nothing, she has to keep going. So there's no endpoint because she always needs to have something new came up and new evidence. And this is bombshell information that you won't get anywhere else. And she can't lose that audience and she has been losing quite a bit of audience, but as soon as she loses most of them, then it's over because she's completely tanked her credibility. I don't think she could recover. She can recover from this.
She can pivot to the left.
I don't think she can. Well, yeah.
She can pivot to the left.
Do that.
And there's a huge audience there for her.
Yeah. I mean, most of her audience already
audience.
is on the left.
I will say this,
The
man, the same reason I call out Trump is the reason I keep doing these call outs of Candace Owens. I want to push her in the right direction.
I just want to push her.
She needs to pivot away from TPUSA at this point. There hasn't been anything there. Let the trial go. If something else comes up or she wants to investigate it in private and then find something, then bring it up. But hitting on it day after day with nothing there, I mean, it's time to pivot, girl.
She won't. She'll become a Democrat, or she'll go off air.
Yeah, I think
or she'll have some kind of breakdown.
I think she'll. Well, there's a chance she might not pivot Democrat. I could see the rise of an independent, and I think I see Fuentes, Candace Owens, and a lot of other social media figures. Kim Iverson, probably if there's
another one
independent candidate, they're really going to try to get behind them, and that is probably going to split the vote and allow the Democrats to win, though. Mm-hmm. So maybe that is actually working for the Democrats.
Nan says, I'm actually glad she's doing this. I don't really care which agency or agencies win the PSYOPs. I'm not saying it's not bad. I just don't care what she has to say any longer.
Yeah.
But I do think it is important to kind of get in front of it and also continue to discuss it and show the actual evidence of why what she's saying makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean...
debunking her.
Yeah, if nobody's kind of calling her out, a lot of people are calling her out now, which is a good thing. People are going to just assume that she has something because she's been talking about it for so long and she is the expert. Like when the trial comes, I think that's when we're going to see a lot of the real evidence there. And I think a lot of it is pointing more and more towards the actual shooter everybody was suspecting in the first place.
Nan also says, sad performance by Kid Rock, pre-recorded. He put the mic down a couple times. He didn't even bother to try to lip sync. He's not who I want representing America. Not to defend him, because again, I don't like Kid Rock or that kind of music. And the whole All-American halftime show was not for me because I'm not all-American. I'm not even a bit American. So I didn't find it as interesting as maybe more people did. I don't really know who Kid Rock is, aside from a lot of the things he says. But to defend him a little bit, it does seem that it was a lag in the stream that made it seem like he was not singing. And he did
think so.
He had a backing track. Tim Pool went into it. He talked about how audio works, audio syncing works.
I know. I was calling that out as well, right when I seen it live. That's the first thing I said to you.
I also said he looks like he's lip syncing, but there might be an explanation. I found it cringe recently when Kid Rock came out with an explanation. I don't think he had to do that. But I think there might be something else behind it other than he's just lip syncing and he's really bad at it.
Yeah, but I think there is big room for improvement. Do you think they focused on family and faith, and it was appropriate for a halftime show for a family to watch? I think they can do it a lot better next year and not have it pre-recorded, actually have it live, have a better selection of artists. They did play it safe. They used the artists they had access to as well.
And that's the thing. It does seem that more and more information is coming out about how the NFL might have been involved in not allowing artists to actually go do the halftime show. So it seems like they had a lot more people booked, or at least interested, and they were speaking to a lot of people who all of a sudden started saying, oh, sorry, something came up, I can't. Or venues that said, oh, sorry, we can't host you.
Yeah,
but right before it was supposed to go on. So.
This is a real opportunity, and next year I hope they do improve it to really get independent artists that aren't in the industry, like Tom
I'll
McDonald.
continue to say they should have had Tom McDonald.
Like Tom McDonald, like Oliver Anthony. I would have absolutely loved to see Oliver Anthony, and having a reemergence of Oliver Anthony and that song he had just a few years ago when the midterms comes would be absolutely huge.
Yeah. Non also says, I seriously didn't even know there was an alternative show until the next day. I didn't understand most of what Bunny was saying. I was asking myself, are they making a parody of themselves? He is a parody of himself.
Well,
but
Non didn't see our last show, and there was a performance Bad Bunny did a few years ago, and he wears earplugs when he performs. His music actually went out and his auto tune went out, and he literally looked like a
retard.
Looked like a retard on stage.
He sings like a retard.
And the way the sounds he was making, it was ridiculous.
And most, again, regular Latinos who are Latin American people who are not woke don't like him, and they actually really despise him because of the plant that he is, because what his function is to be a propaganda tool for a lot of the dictatorships that still continue to try to run our continent, our country. So
yeah, and he's not a good masculine role model for young men. I'll continue to say it. There's a coordinated effort to gayify young straight men now, and it's happening through influencers like Clavicle. It's happening through Bad Bunny, and it's happening on both the left and the right, and it's absolutely ridiculous. Now, not all the right, but a lot of it.
Non also says, I don't like that kind of music. Cool that the people actually got married. What a story. I mean, that was cute. I had a theory about what they were going to use that wedding for. And I think, and I said in the last show that I think they backtracked from that idea after the whole Epstein files and Jay-Z became more prominent within the files. And they didn't want controversy. I think they had some sort of plan of making a narrative and a story where they start off in Puerto Rico and then they get to, where the little house is.
They fall in love in Puerto Rico, then they move to the United States, then they get married, and then ICE comes in. But I think they took out that last part.
But I mean, they did apparently get married for real, but that doesn't mean they couldn't have gone with the story.
Yeah.
I think they would have been all for that. Non says, Bad Bunny was weird. Yes.
But he was a lot less weird because they try to normalize him a lot because in doing research for our last show, my God, the guy is freaking weird.
Joe Montana says, news shouldn't be just politics. Can you do segments about things that affect guys like Black Pill, MGTOW, Passport Bros, Incels Chats, how social media ruined dating for guys? So he basically wants you to talk a lot.
Yeah, I bring more of that stuff in. And
because we've been focusing a lot on Canada because of the separatist movements and because of the hellhole that it has become and continues to be, and because that's where we came from.
Well, the show kind of evolved a little bit because we used to be just geopolitics by region, the United States, Canada, Latin America. And then I said, okay, let's add personality politics to bring more of a flair. Then let's add a section for religion, and then health, MAHA, education, and then remigration or immigration. So we added those in. But yeah, I'm definitely up for maybe a little bit of a red pill section. I know it counts as a little bit of a debate for us. Not that I completely buy into the red pill, but a lot of the intellectuals on the red pill side, I think, have solid points.
There's no intellectuals.
There are. Andrew Wilson's one of them, and I know you hate him.
He's not an intellectual.
Yes, he is.
No, he's not.
Okay.
He just talks fast and
he doesn't
gets
talk
won
fast.
over most people.
No,
I
didn't say Andrew Tate. I said Andrew Wilson.
I know.
Okay.
Both of them. But I will say maybe those could also be like edited videos as well. Because I don't know if a section would work within the show. I think like specific subjects might do better.
Hey, the audience
videos.
wants it. Don't try to.
But we also need more.
Especially the news has been actually really. There's been a ton of news. I've been having to leave a lot of stories out. But when it slows down again, I'll add more sections.
Because like some of the purpose and so a bit of what at least I want to do, but we want to do is bring stories or talk about things that are not like the main headline story everywhere, the things that are getting kind of not talked about and go down by the wayside because there's bigger stories.
Well, yeah. Also, we have right now we air Monday, Wednesday, Friday. There is an opportunity for a Tuesday, Thursday show. I'm kind of
He used to do that. Yeah.
but we focused on edited videos because we're 150 subscribers away from actually being monetized. Once we hit monetization, I may add in a Tuesday, Thursday show that is a little bit less geopolitical.
And I might do more individual videos, kind of like the ones I used to do for the Spanish channel. And now I want to bring both of those back too. Sirius says, I didn't watch any of it from reactions and reviews. Seems like it was theater, signaling invitation to their silent perversions. I mean, not silent, but they're not very silent perversions. They're out in the open, full for everybody to see behind a truck.
Yeah.
Sirius also says,
Well, and that's the thing. And I just like the fact that TPUSA, whether it was successful or not successful, it was a solid alternative for families to watch that was something safe to watch with the kids.
And it also
not having guys grind on each other in the middle of the field, which was happening.
And it proved a point. It proved that point that a lot of people don't want to watch that. And that, yes, SEX sometimes sells, but sometimes people are just not interested in that anymore.
Yeah.
It's been too much in the culture for too long. Sirius says, agreed with Nat. Candace went down a ridiculous rabbit hole and stayed there. Now she can't climb back up.
She can pivot because she does segments in her show. I didn't necessarily like all of her segments today, but she did pivot to Middle East politics a little bit, and then she pivoted also to what happened in the Super Bowl. At least that was away from just every single day TPUSA. And when you have so little or you have nothing, like the audience is going to recognize it soon enough. Because I watched her so heavily, I think I recognized it a lot faster than others.
And Sirius also says, Red Bull content is great, but this show is better without it. And I agree with you. But I mean, again, maybe Tuesdays, Thursdays eventually could be more of like a pop culture thing that's happening. But for the longest time, you kind of didn't want to go into that whole.
Well, it was hard because
I did try.
I got drawn back into geopolitics on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and it was like I was just repeating myself every day. Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, the news is like there's a lot of turnover in the news. If I do it every day, it seems like there's not a lot of turnover. I'm just talking about the same stories.
But if we add some of the Red Pill content, I will be there to give contrast to because you're not even. I mean, you don't subscribe to most of the Red Pill stuff, especially now.
Half of it, I would say, I do.
Well, the masculinity side of it and the lost masculinity that we're seeing, yes. But I wouldn't say that that's Red Pill. I would just say that's a general concern that most people on the right and conservatives have. I wouldn't label it as Red Pill.
But it's also an important audience to talk to. I think Matt Walsh knows that. I think a lot of people do know that, because when it comes to marriage, we need to refocus on people actually building lives, families, and faith and things like this.
And having the ability to do so.
Yeah. And you need to talk to disenfranchised young men, because if you can inspire them or give them a path or a roadmap, and I think what they're really looking for is a roadmap, because they feel betrayed by society right now.
And yet all the roadmaps that are being given to them, both from the left and the Red Pill, I would say, are not conducive to what actually I think most of their goals are. It's a mirage. It's a facade.
It's not set up for real long-term success. If they follow a lot of the prescriptions that the Red Pill is giving, I think they're going to find hollowness and emptiness. But the Red Pill community is shifting right now, and there's kind of a leadership change going on in there, where a lot more of the thought leaders are kind of stepping up. So I do like it.
Thoughtless leaders. Sirius says, I'll tap in. Thank you. So yeah, I mean, maybe we can add eventually, once we get to 1,000, so subscribe, please, if you're interested in watching that kind of content. We'll add probably like pop culture or more culture-focused show Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Yeah, what happens with lives, they get you watch hours. We've hit our watch hours to monetize, but you also have to hit a subscriber base, and videos actually get you subscribers. So it's
edited videos get you more subscribers.
Yeah, it's very distinct. So we have to focus on edited videos until we get to monetization right now.
Yes. Okay, that was it. So now we can move on to the next section, which is
Health and MAHA.
Health and MAHA. So interesting stories there too. So stay, if you were just here for Canada, stay, because there's important news as well for women, especially.
but the greatest would be to do nothing.
And this first story did make headlines a while ago. It was attempted to be silenced, and I did see, luckily, and I was glad to see a lot of conservative commentator women speaking about it, because I have a personal connection to it. And we'll talk about it in a bit.
I kind of put the story in there because I like the story, but I didn't realize the personal connection you had with this.
Mm-hmm. So Valerie Ann Smith says thousands of women are suing Pfizer over their popular birth control shot Depo-Provera, I can never say it, linked to brain tumors. The EU added a warning in 2024. Canada has warned since 2006, and the U.S. has no such warning. Neither has Mexico, or neither did Mexico. Pfizer ends people. And yes, popular birth control is linked to brain tumors in new study, as over 1,000 women sue Pfizer over health risks. And yeah, those lawsuits have just started to come up now, or like the information at least has started to come up now.
Robin Phillip has been through 2 surgeries and months of radiation, all due to a tumor she now believes was caused by her birth control injections.
If I would have knew from the get-go, I would have never took that shot.
Depo-Provera is a progestin shot injected every 3 months. 1 in 4 women in the United States use it, with Black women taking the shot at nearly double the national rate. Phillip took it for nearly 30 years. Multiple studies have found a potential link between Depo and meningioma, including one that found women who took the drug for more than a year had 5 times the risk of developing the tumor. Phillip is now one of more than 1,000 women suing Pfizer.
Second, just because it's NBC, I don't want to get dinged. So, okay, you can play it again.
The maker of Depo-Provera alleging the company chose to ignore relevant safety concerns and deliberately not study the long-term safety of Depo.
These women all have meningiomas, many have surgery, some have radiation, and they've all had their lives greatly impacted.
The European Union added a warning label for meningioma to the drug in 2024. Canada has listed it as an adverse reaction since 2006. No such warning exists in the United States. In a motion seeking dismissal of the case, Pfizer says it became aware of the risks of meningiomas in 2023 and made an application to the FDA to change the drug's warning label. The company says the FDA rejected their effort to warn patients.
And pause it real quick. And they build all this into their pricing. They expect lawsuits and they're ready for payouts, and they got that money put aside. This is their model. This is Pfizer's model.
The FDA declined our request for comment, but in a letter to Pfizer included in the motion, it wrote, the findings of the available observational studies alone do not support the addition of a warning. Pfizer saying to NBC News it stands behind the safety and efficacy of Depo-Provera.
Yeah, and they keep wanting to push it out, just what they want to push out their other jibby jabs, and a lot of information's coming out about that. Except in Canada, 15 years they're sealing the files.
And with this, it is important, again, because it has been used by 1 in 4 women, particularly of a certain race. But here in Mexico, they were also using it and recommending it. And when I was younger, I mean, this is maybe TMI, but I did have a lot of issues with acne and hormonal balance, which is getting more and more common now that we see a lot of, for example, chemicals that we didn't used to be in contact with, changing hormonal profiles of both men and women, but especially teenagers, which is also worrying. We are also seeing testosterone levels drop by a lot for men. But for women, more and more hormonal issues are showing up and popping up. And even when I was younger, I was getting that issue. And I had a lot of acne when I was young and went through Accutane and a bunch of different remedies. But one of them was birth control, because to regulate your hormones, that's part of what birth control does. It completely changes how your body functions and processes hormones. So after a while of trying regular birth control, one of my doctors, I'm guessing without really knowing most of the side effects of this thing, of Depo-Provera, gave me 1 shot and my body went haywire. I was pretty young. I must have been like 14 or 15, which is also insane that most of like teenage and women's and teenage girls' issues are fixed by just giving them birth control. Oh, you have painful periods, birth control. Oh, you won't, not even for the actual function of birth control, but to completely change a hormonal profile is insane. So when I got it, I got like terrible side effects. It was horrible for me. And then a few years later, we came to find out also, for example, that Britney Spears, when she shaved her head off, had been being treated with a bunch of other things, but also Depo-Provera. That was one of the main birth controls that they used on her, and the connections started like to come up. But now with all of these lawsuits and all of this new information of the side effects that it has, it's even more worrying. And yet, most teenage girls are still fully being prescribed some form of birth control, not for birth control.
Well, and it's not even like if you if you go away from a jibby jab and you go into like an O-ring or something like that, it's just as dangerous. There's a lot of side effects for those things as well.
Yeah, IUDs are very dangerous. Copper ones as well as hormonal ones. Copper ones can get embedded into your uterus, which causes a bunch of other problems too. I mean,
calm down.
there is solutions. There's obvious solutions like abstinence, but there's also, just
embedded into your uterus. Too much information. Okay, let's move on.
I looked a lot into it. Again, I could speak a lot more about women's issues. Eventually, maybe I'll have my own section about more female things.
Well, just like the other person said, I think the show would be better without those issues.
Fine. But moving on from that, and again, if you do know someone that has taken Depo-Provera and doesn't know about the lawsuits, let them know, because it is important to have that information. And in the US, they're trying to basically cover up a lot of the reporting on it.
It's class action lawsuits right now, so it's very easy to get on the case if you previously took the medication.
But also from Libs of TikTok, quote, Colorado Department of Agriculture employee placed on administrative leave after blowing the whistle on tax dollars funding DEI.
Yeah, and this is the health and MAHA section. So he's in the Department of Agriculture. He's a whistleblower. It's very important that we kind of support whistleblowers. We're going to need more of them to kind of blow the whistle on what's going on in these departments and in private institutions as well.
Everyone, it's Rich, the Colorado Department of Agriculture whistleblower. Let me give you an update. I just got off a Zoom meeting with the employer, Colorado Department of Agriculture, and have been informed that I am placed on leave. And it was really interesting because it wasn't even 5 minutes before they had blocked my access to all of my work emails, my work phone, etc. I asked for my counsel to be present, and they denied the counsel. They actually, after I had asked for him to be present, told me no, that this was an internal meeting only. I also had tried to record the meeting, and they told me they stopped the recording of the meeting as well. Fortunately, I had a backup. I was recording it on my phone and also screen recording it, so I'll be able to use that as evidence. But this is a retaliation that is happening from the Colorado Department of Agriculture for blowing the whistle on federal dollars being used to fund DEI initiatives at the Colorado Department of Agriculture. I am now on administrative leave.
Yeah, and if you don't know, Colorado is a blue state. A lot of people don't know that. And Trump brought in a lot of different protections for whistleblowers. That being said, it's going to be on a state-by-state basis how they actually do these things, and are they actually giving the protections that these whistleblowers deserve and need, so they can continue to kind of come out and blow the whistles on a lot of these departments. So a lot of the rot that's in the deep state kind of gets shown to light.
Done. Yeah.
Okay, let's go into religion if we have no comments, or if we have comments.
I think I went too hard about birth control, but it's issues that are important to talk about.
Yeah, you cleared the room out.
Sorry. But a lot of people don't want to talk about it.
Maybe I should have put health and MAHA later on.
Fine. But let's move on to religion now, or the craziness that religion has been becoming in certain aspects.
Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God.
And we
were doing so well with Candace Owens. Everybody was just in there.
Well, they were just there for that. But more news is important too. Okay. Not just Candace. But yes, we do continue to see a lot of pastors and religious leaders be not what they purport to be and not fully following in
This is exactly what I was talking about the left trying to put on a skin suit, and now they're trying to bring politics into this once they have that skin suit on. And this is happening in major cities, places like Vancouver. I mean, this is running rampant in Vancouver, Toronto, places like Canada, but in democratic states as well. The left is currently trying to put on a Protestant religious skin suit.
You know, I've been called an anti-MAGA preacher, and it's true. I am anti-MAGA. In fact, anyone who claims to be a Christian has to be anti-MAGA, or else you're not truly following the teachings of Jesus Christ. You cannot follow Jesus, who told us to welcome the stranger, while also advocating to close our borders to immigrants and refugees. You cannot follow Jesus, who told us to feed those who are hungry and give drink to those who are thirsty, while also advocating to cut programs that give food and drink to those who are hungry and thirsty. You cannot claim to follow Jesus, who went around and provided health care for free while also advocating for cuts to health care. You cannot claim to follow Jesus, who spent his entire life going around and teaching people while also cutting education. You cannot claim to follow Jesus, who spent his entire ministry giving hope to the poor while also advocating for an economic system that takes money from the poor and gives it to billionaires. Yes, I'm an anti-MAGA preacher because everything that claims to make America great again is bad for the kingdom of God, the reign of God on this earth. If you're a Christian, be anti-MAGA.
Yeah, and I do like a little bit of, I'm very sympathetic to Christian nationalism, but I do like to see a little bit of separation between church and state, especially when the left is putting on that skin suit and really going against a lot of the fundamental principles. Because if you dig into a lot of his beliefs, what's he going to say? Oh, you're taking healthcare dollars away from people. And then if you ask him about abortion, he's going to say that's taking healthcare dollars away.
Mm-hmm. But essentially what he's doing is equating certain things with just governmental programs and governmental, in certain ways, overreach as well, or programs that have overreached and have been completely mismanaged for who knows how long. But mixing it is insane. And I'm not even religious, and it's egregious that there's so many people like him now getting platformed, but luckily also being shown to the world about what they're actually preaching within their churches. But I will continue to say, and we did touch on it a little bit, that great response by Ali Beth Stuckey and her book also regarding empathy and what the fake empathy the left continues to thrive on, and her response to Hillary Clinton's article about how MAGA has no empathy when it's the exact opposite.
Oh, wait, we have one more story here in the religion section, and then we'll get into remigration.
Yes, Erika says, quote, since her husband was recently deported, this American citizen is soliciting advice on how she and her children can become legal citizens of Honduras.
Yeah, and hopefully you can hear it. It's a little hard to hear. She's easy to hear, but the other lady in this clip's a little bit hard to hear.
Is this part of the religion?
Yeah.
Okay.
On today's episode of I Could Not Make This Up If I Tried, we have a woman whose husband was deported by ICE.
Oh, hold on. This was supposed to be in remigration.
Yeah, but you put it under religion.
Okay, well, we'll watch it now and then
go to remigration.
So after just shy of 3 months, my husband was officially deported to Honduras.
But brace yourself, because she's on the internet asking how she can legally move her family back to Honduras to be with him.
You know, how me, as a mom, an American, has to start this process of all of the documents that we're needing to eventually move to Honduras. I just want some guidance. If anybody that can, comment on here or shoot me a message. Where do I even begin to go to get, my children's birth certificates, my marriage license, all of that translated and certified? Because I know I have to have them certified and translated before I go to Honduras.
Now pause, because this is where my brain short circuits. You're protesting ICE. You're protesting deportations, calling borders racist, laws immoral, and enforcement cruel. But the moment you need to cross into another country, it's suddenly, what forms do I need? Do I qualify legally? Will my kids have the right citizenship? Oh, now paperwork matters. So let me get this straight. You want the U.S. to have no borders, no enforcement, no consequences. But Honduras? Honduras needs rules. Honduras needs a process.
Okay, that's good. And you don't need, she even needs to get the documents translated before she goes. I mean, it's a little crazy because a lot of people don't understand the United States allows more immigration than any other country in the world by a massive amount. That's number one. But number two, they've allowed over the last, especially under Joe Biden, the most illegal immigration of any other nation as well. So if they want to clean up the system so they can get rid of illegal immigration and just have legal immigration, I support that, because they're not saying they don't want legal immigration. What they're saying is we want to continue to be the world leader when it comes to immigration.
And it's the hypocrisy, there's just the hypocrisy on the face of it, that she is willing to do that, but doesn't understand that because her husband didn't follow her steps that she's trying to do as an American that knows that she probably needs to do this for the country that she's going to. And then she got angry because basically they didn't do what she is now trying to do the right way.
Okay, let's actually get into remigration now.
The immigration policies in Europe are a disaster. You're destroying Europe. You're destroying the culture of Europe.
And yes, continuing on with remigration now, actually.
And after remigration, we'll go into Latin America, just because there is breaking news there that's pretty big.
Yes.
And it has a big impact on the United States as well.
Yes, from Baron Trump, who is not Baron Trump. A lot of people think that this is his real account. It's not.
This is Baron Trump news.
Yes. And, quote, an illegal immigrant just rammed an ICE vehicle in Minnesota during a high-speed chase. Innocent citizens had their cars destroyed because someone who should have not even be here decided to run in a car. This is lawlessness. This is what lawlessness looks like. And, of course, the left is going insane trying to defend the migrant that caused all of this, the illegal migrant that caused all of this.
And I looked out the window, and there must have already been a crash. You could have seen a car, someone already hit it or something. I saw it hit and crash, and then I saw the guy fall out the window of the crashed car, onto the ground, and then run this way over. He climbed our fence,
the ICE agent comes chasing after him. Pointed taser gun. He's, I'm gonna tase you, I'm gonna tase you. I was trying to yell out my window, like, get to the front of the building, I'll let you in. And he never made it around. And then I think the taser kind of scared him from running any further. And then he apprehended him, put him in the back of the car on that side. And I think that's who they drove around here on the stretcher over here.
And he was injured. They took him away.
He wasn't so injured he couldn't run, but yeah, you can have all sorts of like stuff. Yeah, he was definitely like injured and like kind of cut on his head.
It's okay. We do have an ambulance coming on the way, but the EMT is checking him out right now.
Okay, and that's good. And this is really a special circumstance, especially considering since the major 2 incidents in Minnesota, Trump has reworked his entire ICE platform, meaning they're protecting federal buildings. They're doing very specialized warrants and searches, but they're not out on the streets in mass anymore. And that approach is a completely different approach. I think it's working much better. It's what I recommended originally, but people are going around when ICE is driving around, they're trying to get pictures of them and other things. That being said, yeah, it's just a bad thing that kind of happened here. But it was the illegal migrant that decided to be in the high-speed chase.
And it is also kind of incentivized by the people that continue to defend and protect the people that decide to do these kinds of things.
Yeah.
Moving on. From Wall Street Apes, quote, a meeting took place at a restaurant in Minneapolis where Somali immigrants declared that a part of Minnesota has been claimed for the government of Somalia. The man is a member of the Somalia state in the region of Galmudug.
Yeah, and this is a important story to kind of keep an eye on because when the new Summer of Love comes up, I'm expecting this summer to be huge protest because the midterms follow directly after that, and it's going to have a big impact. But autonomous zones, if they can set these up, they're going to be huge for these protests. The Somali community may be able to set up an autonomous zone, and this may be the pre-work for that. We've seen that happen in the Chaz Chop Zone in Seattle.
Galmudug, state of Somalia.
This guy seems to believe that the Somalian government claimed some land in Minnesota and it's theirs to govern now. This meeting's in Minneapolis, Minnesota, at the Safari restaurant, which is associated with the Feeding Our Future scam.
The restaurant claimed to serve more than 3.9 million meals to children in a 19-month span, even using Congresswoman Ilhan Omar in a promotional video in an alleged attempt to show legitimacy.
Farhia Khalif Mahmoud. Farhia is my leader. We'll lead this country together. When I say now she became state representative, Galmudug.
I want you to understand what this guy's saying. He's saying that Farhia Khalif is his leader. He is a member of the Galmudug state, not a U.S. citizen. He's a Galmudug state citizen in Minneapolis. Farhia Khalif is his government leader. This is the definition of an insurrection. She was appointed as the governor of the Galmudug state of North America, and this is the celebration that they had, and everybody was like, yeah, Somalia.
Welcome to Galmudug, state of Somalia. We're all together on this one. We've been living here for long. We're going to lead this country together. When I say together, means me and you and us, inshallah. So, Farhia Khalif Mahmoud is one of the leaders in this state, all the way Virginia Beach, individually solo, and now she became state representative Galmudug for U.S.A. She is my leader. When I say that, I know who she is. I know where she started from. I know where she's going with this.
Okay, yeah, and he's not talking about another country there. He's talking about a sovereign country that they've created now within the United States, and they have a leader for that. That's important. It just sounds like craziness until you have these mass protest and autonomous zones that start getting set up, especially in the summer before the midterms. So it's just something I wanted to kind of put a tack in so we can maybe go back if something happens in the summertime.
But insane that it is still allowed to happen. But now we also have more stuff from Tom Homan. From Define L's quote, Tom Homan says Joe Biden was the first president that came into office and unsecured the border on purpose.
Well, this was actually a huge clip because I didn't realize Tom Homan had worked for 8 presidents. Like
I knew Obama and he got a medal.
All the way back to Reagan, I believe.
Why do you think the Democrats did this? I mean, it was not just bad for the country to have completely open borders. I mean, even the liberals understand that now. It was also bad politically. Why? What was
I get asked that all the time. I don't understand. You know, I worked for 6 presidents starting with Ronald Reagan.
Oh, 6.
Every president I worked for, even Clinton, Obama, took some steps to secure the border because they understood you can't have strong national security if you don't have border security. No one did it better than President Trump. Like him or love him, most successful when it comes to border security and the safety of this nation, no one's done it better. Joe Biden, the first president in the history of this nation that came in office and unsecured the border on purpose. There wasn't an accident. It wasn't.
Why?
I don't really know. The only thing I can guess is they saw a future political benefit from letting millions of people in the United States, whether they thought they were future Democratic voters. But remember, when he signed 90 executive orders destroying everything we did, he also overturned the Trump census rule, which means millions of people released in sanctuary cities will be counted in that census. What's that mean? More seats in the House of Dems. There's no other reason. Because I asked every Democrat I ever talked to, what's the downside in a secure border? What's the downside unless illegal drugs get on Americans? What's the downside unless sex trafficking of women and children? What's the downside unless terrorists come across the country? What's the downside? They can't give you a downside. So they must have saw future political benefit.
Well, and that's the strange thing. This time when they came across the border under Biden, this was the largest influx of immigrants in a long, long time. And they transported them to very specific states to influence the census. So that would influence the election. And now they don't want a voter ID. They have no voter ID laws in a lot of these blue states. I mean, it's really going into election rigging.
And also into way less safety for the American population, and also for the legal migrants that did get there and then did do all the paperwork they had to do. Now they're seeing the worst of the worst from their countries come in and do the same things that they try to escape their countries for. But also, Tom Homan, RightScope says, quote, Tom Homan just revealed Minnesota counties are letting ICE into the jails to arrest illegals. Unprecedented cooperation is now happening. And they caved. Illegals are being arrested. And instead of being arrested into Minnesota, this is huge. And Tom Homan did it because they did change the strategy, as you mentioned.
Yeah, and I just want to keep bringing this up. The strategy has been changed. There is cooperation going on now. So Trump's ICE program is not going well, though. He's not getting the numbers other presidents have. But what is going extremely well is his shutdown of the border. There's not a new influx of migrants coming in that are illegal. That's number one. And number two, his remigration program, where he gives $2,500 and a plane ticket anywhere in the world, including back to their home country if they want, is working very well. That has between 1.5 and 2 million people that have taken him up on that offer. So he needs to keep focusing on where he's having success, and this re-strategy of actual ICE on the ground, I think, was a good thing.
Attorney General Mayor Fry and law enforcement officials about increasing coordination in a lawful way between the county jails and ICE to avoid public safety threats being released back in the community. While we had our differences, one thing was clear: we all committed to public safety for all who live in the Twin Cities. We have made significant progress under the direction of President Trump.
Okay, and you can leave it there. I just kind of wanted to highlight again, the strategy has been changed. So when we see these stories kind of pop up on the news, a lot of it is local police and state police now that are having to implement and enforce a lot of the laws on the street again. We've seen massive arrests at these protests. That was state police. So,
and I also did want to bring in one last story and just like a comment on this, because yes, we see a lot of people angry about what the U.S. is doing, but then when you contrast it with what Mexico is doing, for example, or other Latin American countries, they also don't want illegal migrants coming in. I mean, Chile, most of the, or at least big part of what decided the election in favor of Cast was all of the illegal migration from Central and South America into Chile and the increasing crime rates that happen there. Here in Mexico, there's also, and have been historically, but also right now, there's a bunch of protests going on against migrants from Central America coming and now staying in Mexico.
Well, you can just look at Europe. What's happening to Europe? European citizens are crying out for the government to do something, and they won't do anything. Thanks to Trump, America is actually doing something. They've completely shut down the border. He's doing this remigration policy with the $2,500, and he's trying to do these ICE deportations. Now, the ICE deportations is a strategy. He's readjusted the strategy, so I think it's more applicable to the general public. But it's a three-pronged strategy here. It's not just ICE, and I think he realizes that.
But now it also came up, and this is why I bring the story, that yes, the protests are mentioned are real. From AKA, quote, meanwhile, Mexican citizens are holding protests in response to Central Americans entering their country. And if the left knew this, maybe they'd change also their own strategy and their understanding of how things work. And we also have continued to see, and I was going to bring this story up as well.
There's a big influx of Venezuelan migrants into Mexico, or there was. Now,
but also Haiti and like a bunch of Central America that used to try to go get to the States, but now also are just staying in Mexico and also increasing a lot of the issues and bringing a lot of the issues that every single other country is seeing.
Yeah.
But I was also going to say there's also a different kind of deportation going on in Mexico right now in the like beach towns and beach centers like Playa del Carmen, for example, where they released an order to actually start deporting Canadians, Europeans, and Americans that now have become homeless because of substance abuse issues and are living on the streets and causing mayhem for those tourist towns. So now they're actually deporting all of the Americans and Canadians and Europeans that we no longer want in the country because they're not beneficial to us.
White homeless people on the streets here in Mexico City are actually more common than people would think. Last year when we went to CPAC, crazy white homeless guy that was obviously a drug addict somehow got stranded here from the United States. But this is even a bigger problem when you go to the little beach towns and things like that. So they're actually really enforcing the law. Here in Mexico City, you just see a lot of crazy white homeless people from the United States and Canada, surprisingly enough.
Yeah.
So. It's not just an issue America's dealing with.
No.
Everybody's kind of dealing with it.
Yeah, and that one homeless guy we did see at CPAC that came into a Starbucks and started yelling, he was very clearly either Canadian or American, and he just I was transported back to Vancouver and oh my God, it's like I'm back. I escaped this. I thought I had escaped this, but yeah, unfortunately that is something that nobody talks about, and I wonder what the leftists would think about that as well.
Yeah.
But we do have some comments.
Oh, okay, great. Perfect.
Joe Montana says, please remember to reach out to these interesting guests after your show. Alex Jones, Alex Craner, Alex Newman, David Icke, and Josh Phillips, and Josh Sigadan also lives in Mexico.
Well, if we had more,
I don't think they'd ever listen to us, but
we don't even have 1,000 subscribers, so it's hard to reach out to a lot of people right now. On your Spanish channel, we have 11,000, so it's a little bit easier to reach out to people. When you have a little bit of reach, people are willing to do interviews. They're just not willing to do interviews with very small channels. And it's been a struggle to grow the channel because we do broadcast out of Mexico City, and it's hard to get YouTube to
push it out to the right audience,
to an English audience,
which is also kind of why we focus so much on Canada lately.
Yeah,
and eventually we'll also pivot to the U.S. and
I'm gonna get more apple juice. I'm
fine. Sirius says, what do you want for Christmas? But exactly. I mean, I'd love to, and I'd love to interview a bunch of people. I have a giant list of people I'd love to talk to, interview, etc. But it takes a while to build that up. Even for my Spanish channel, I have reached out to some people. And because of the numbers, I'm guessing because of the numbers or because they just don't see the messages, they don't really reach back. I have been able to talk to some people, but it is kind of a struggle, and we do have to continue to work a lot to continue to grow the channel.
But yeah, interviews is the main thing I want to kind of go into. Yeah. But it's very hard. Like once this channel gets, I'd say 15 or 20,000 subscribers, I think it will become a lot easier. Right now, it's just very hard.
Yes. And Sirius says, at least there's clarity on immigration thanks to this administration. Yeah.
And that's the thing. There's clarity. I mean, everybody's complaining, but every other nation on earth, I mean, we're going to get into the EU later. It's absolutely insane. They're trying to delete the data on a lot of what's going on with these immigrants because it's already a huge scandal. Trump's doing something, and he even knows if ICE goes too far, like we need to change the strategy, and he's changing the strategy. He's doing everything you can kind of do. He had a mandate to get rid of illegal immigrants. He did that. He said, okay, maybe ICE is going a little bit too far. Let's recalibrate that. And he did. He did it in a big way. He has his remigration program with the $2,500, and he's completely shut down the border.
But again,
and we showed the statistics between him and Obama, and his under Trump, ICE has had far less incidents. They're just much more publicized because it's Donald Trump and TDS.
But it's not, again, yes, the U.S. is doing something, Trump is doing something, but it's not only the U.S. and Trump. Poland, Hungary, Chile now, Argentina, El Salvador, what else? Costa Rica, a bunch of other countries have started also trying to deal with the very similar issues that the U.S. is dealing with. It's just that those don't get public. Mexico, I mean, we're deporting white people now, and homeless white people. I mean, it's not just the U.S., but because the focus is so much on the U.S. and because Europe has completely failed on it, except for a few countries that want to leave the EU because they want to be able to continue to enforce their borders. If people knew how many people get deported from Argentina, Chile, El Salvador, countries where the citizens themselves have also said we're sick and tired of this not being regulated and of the violence and every other single thing that comes with too much migration into a country that can't support it. Here in Mexico, too.
Well, even in the United States, I mean, every single other president has deported 10 times more than Trump has. When you look at Trump's numbers, he hasn't been successful when it comes to his ICE program. But every other president didn't get any media coverage on it. Then again, I will admit, yeah, Trump is using ICE and putting them in the media because he wants people to take up the offer of the $2,500 and the plane ticket back home. And I think putting ICE in the media is really giving a choice to illegal immigrants, saying, maybe I should take the $2,500, go back home, and I can do it the legal way.
Mm-hmm. But speaking of Latin America, I just listed off a bunch of countries that are doing something about immigration, but there's also some news concerning Mexico and the U.S. that we didn't want to get into at in the beginning because of YouTube, but let's go to it now. And okay, let's start with the thing that happened in the U.S. and then maybe give the explanation as to a possible explanation as to the actual.
Yeah, so everybody's kind of talking about this story, but there's a second layer to this story that nobody's really talking about that I think is very, very big.
It might help people understand a bit better what's going on. From CBS News, quote, El Paso airspace closure was tied to Mexican cartel drones, officials say, after FAA lifts 10-day grounding. The Federal Aviation Administration announced Wednesday morning that it had lifted closure to El Paso's airspace just hours before. After just hours before, it said it was halting all in and out flights from the airport for 10 days for what it called special security reasons. The U.S. officials later said the closure was tied to a cartel drone incursion. Administration officials told CBS News that the closure was triggered by Mexican cartel drones breaching U.S. airspace, which is, should be pretty worrying for America. The officials said the Department of Defense took action to disable the drones, and the FAA and defense officials have determined there is no current threat to commercial travel.
Okay, and then let's get into the second half of the story. And I think this is the part that's really not breaking through, especially in American media. So if you do live in the States, this is big. The Mexican Senate took a vote today.
Because I think we've seen a lot of theories about this whole FAA announcement and closure and no time, etc., saying that, oh, it's aliens. One was one theory. Oh, it's something else they're hiding. But if you also see what happened in Mexico today, it might help understand that it's actually more about cooperation between the U.S. and Mexico that Mexico doesn't want to make public, or the U.S. either.
Yeah, and this is making news in Mexico and on Mexican social media. It's just not making news in America. And this is actually showing the cooperation between the Mexican government and the American government behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. Mexico, because of Trump's tariff policy, Mexico might play it like, it's not helping us. They're the second biggest beneficiary of the tariff program under Trump. It's absolutely revitalizing their economy here.
Yes, so from Azucena Oresti, it says Senate approves entry of U.S. Special Forces into Mexico with 105 votes in favor, 0 against, and 1 abstention. The Senate plenary authorized the entry of 19 members of Team 2 of the Navy SEALs to participate in the exercise, enhancing the capability of Special Operation Forces. The activities will take place from February 15th to April 16th at Marine Infantry, in Campeche, and somewhere in Ciudad del Carmen. But this signals that Mexico is actually cooperating way more and receiving way more help from the U.S. than the government itself tells its citizens here in Mexico, but also than the U.S. has kind of admitted to.
Well, and we've been keeping up on the cooperation behind the scenes because she's signaling to her voter base that she's not cooperating with Trump. Trump's bad, but behind the scenes, she's completely cooperating. She's being financed by the U.S. She's buying massive amounts of military equipment, transport planes. She recently bought 2 of the most
she received.
Yeah.
She borrowed to her.
She said she bought it, so.
Yeah, but they don't have the money.
Yeah, I know. But what I'm trying to say here is the military equipment is here. They're getting ready for something bigger, and it's very obvious. I think she'll outright come out and say she's cooperating with the American administration after 2028 if the Republicans win. If the Democrats win, she'll continue to say she's not cooperating.
But it's also becoming more and more obvious for the people that aren't all just for Morena and Claudia Sheinbaum that there has been cooperation, because they've caught a lot of people that usually they wouldn't have been able to catch without some sort of help and some sort of better equipment or better technology to do so, and then sending them over to the U.S. But they're able to put, the little star and say, yeah, we did it. But it was also very much in cooperation with the U.S. And we continue to see also reports from Sinaloa and from other places that there are military operations ongoing. It's just not getting the coverage. But citizens themselves are filming it and saying, hey, there's these massive helicopters flying on top of us. And I hear, guns shooting. What's going on?
Well, and there's massive amounts of military equipment and permanent bases being set up at the border. So this thing is going to escalate. And I'm glad to see there is cooperation between the two countries. The cooperation doesn't go just into military. Trump is making sure he's setting up Mexico financially. One out of every $4 that they're clawing back from China because of this trade war, he's investing into Mexico. So Mexico's receiving 25% of that money. So,
and also there was a lot of, for example, worry here in Mexico by economists and academics that the US dollar was going to climb and become even more expensive, when in reality, thanks to a lot of the things and policies that Trump has implemented both in the US and internationally, the dollar and the Mexican peso are actually kind of doing pretty good right now.
Because Trump is trying to bring manufacturing back to the United States. Any country that has manufacturing needs a low dollar in order to sell it to other countries in the world. So he's intentionally trying to not collapse the dollar, but slowly bring it down. I think eventually there's going to be two currencies, probably one in a stable coin, one within an internal dollar, one that will be used for imports, one that will be used for exports. So
but now let's actually go and talk about the US after this. And I just wanted to leave that point clear that a lot of people in the US, or at least political commentary that I've seen, hasn't touched on the fact of what Mexico is doing in the cooperation with the US, which might signal as to what's happened at the
Okay, let's go.
And the first story involves my favorite thing ever, which is AI and a Super Bowl commercial. I'm sure if you watch the Super Bowl or read about this, you've seen it. But American Papa Bear, that's a funny name.
This was an absolute crazy story, and it's pretty scary.
Yeah, and there's also a letter floating around. I'm not sure don't remember who wrote it, but kind of outlining what AI companies are actually doing. So it kind of ties into this. But Ring cameras are going way too far with this. And yes, they are.
I'm sorry, the Ring camera wants to do what?
Until now. One post of a dog's photo in the Ring app starts outdoor cameras looking for a match. Search party from Ring uses AI to help families find lost dogs.
That's straight up surveillance state. They are using dogs and dogs going missing to launch into a complete, utter surveillance state. And with ICE patrolling around and having their budget, absolutely not. Everyone should get rid of Ring, go to a new company, whatever the fuck. Ring camera ain't it.
Well, and he's obviously a leftist because he's talking the way he's talking about ICE, but this is something I think the right and left can kind of agree on. We don't want a surveillance state. We don't want freedoms to be stripped in the name of securing elections or getting rid of illegal immigrants. You need to be able to do those things without stripping your citizens of their freedoms, without mandating a digital ID, digital currency, things of this nature.
And I mean, we're already, as it is, living in a panopticon, and we see Gen Z, for example, being very used to having their video or photo taken anywhere they go, or knowing that there's a possibility. So that's actually made them stop wanting to go out as much. But now if you're telling me that, oh yes, it's a cute dog and we're just using the AI feature, the AI recognition feature to search for your dog, of course, that's not only what it's going to be used for.
Well, that was a Super Bowl commercial. They're trying to promote that like that's something to be proud of.
But I think they did come out and at least say that they kind of regretted.
Yeah, I'm sure.
The ad said.
I'm sure after the backlash. I mean, what marketing company thought that was a good idea?
But also Ring, who thought that it was a good idea to promote AI surveillance within their Ring cameras.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. People would want that.
Everybody kind of knew it was happening, but for them to come out and promote it in that manner, that's kind of a mask-off moment accidentally.
I think they were trying to rose-colored glasses it and say, oh, it's for cute dogs. If you lose your dog, you can search for it.
Okay, let's keep going here. And we have an IRS scandal here.
From Clinton Donnelly, quote, IRS scandal exposed. Senator Johnny Ernst has revealed that IRS employees owe, can you read that number for me?
$50 million.
Thank you. In unpaid taxes. I don't know how to read numbers. I mean, I can, but it takes me a while. So do you want me to read it all? Or
no, you can play it.
Yeah.
While most Americans had to write a big fat check to the government today to pay their taxes, over 100,000 federal workers are not paying their taxes. In 2021, the IRS found that almost 150,000 federal workers owe about $1.5 billion in unpaid taxes.
Billion.
Over 5,000 of them work at the IRS and owe $50 million in overdue taxes. Even though the IRS can fire its workers that are not paying their taxes, only 20 people have been terminated. That double standard is something Senator Joni Ernst, Senate Doge Caucus Chair, wants to stop. She's introducing several bills aimed at cleaning up the IRS. One bill would require IRS employees to be audited every year and fired if they don't pay their taxes. But while the IRS is not catching the tax cheats on their own payroll, they are busy arming their workforce. Ernst is also calling out 10 million taxpayer dollars the IRS has spent on guns and ammo, stockpiling 4,500 guns, 5 million rounds of ammo, even 15 machine guns.
Oh yeah, and that
for their agents.
What they were talking about at the end there happened under Joe Biden. There was I think they hired 75,000 agents, and they were going to equip them all with guns. And these are IRS agents. It was a lot of people suspected at the time Joe Biden was going to start targeting certain groups and things like this.
But I mean, can we also talk about the massive irony that IRS agents are not paying their taxes and should be audited every year?
Well, I will say this about Trump is giving a lot of money in tax returns this year. We do have a few stories later on today, but man, I'm expecting more and more of these stories to kind of come out, especially as the midterms roll along. It's tax season right now, so no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security. These are actually becoming realities now, and people are having a lot of smiles on their faces, I think.
And hopefully more to come. But back to the AI insanity and weirdness. And I have seen, again, there's that famous article that if you didn't know about this, you should, something like that. I'll look it up and put it in the description maybe later. But about someone talking about how advanced and what's actually going on with AI. But we see here as well from Ricardo, quote, big tech is spending $700 billion on AI this year, but their cash flow is collapsing. Amazon is going into debt. Google's free cash flow is dropping 90%, and they're literally paying influencers $600,000 each to convince you AI is worth using. Is there a video or no? Or do you want me to?
I think I'm starting to realize they're trying to. AI is becoming the green new scam, only they didn't plan for it quite as well, so they don't have the infrastructure behind it, and it's starting to be exposed. The big hope for AI, I think, is robotics. We see Tesla transitioning a lot of their car factories into robotics already, which is surprising. AI is a crucial component of that. XAI isn't an industry leader right now. I mean, they're up there, but they're not ChatGPT and some of these other platforms. In the end, if the robots are the hope to save AI, I think it's going to be X that is going to be the primary company that's going to provide that. And they were talking about the chips they're putting into those robots between $5,000 and $10,000 for one AI chip.
I'm still very against AI.
Is there some fear that the $200 billion, it's not a pure let's seize a moment in AI, it's let's also spend on robotics and, orbital satellites and all sorts of other things?
Well, Google last night talked about half of their CapEx going specifically to Azure and a lot of it going to compute for other training that they're doing. But I think in general, you should look at about 80% of this CapEx is going to be somehow AI related, whether it's robotics. And of course, they have their regular way of business when it comes to CapEx and doing some things on the outer edge, I guess, literally in space. But to answer your question, it's probably 80%, still a really big number, and speaks to, I think, what is the conviction that these companies have in terms of where AI is going.
Is there some fear that the
and there's no miracle product that's kind of in ear reach right now other than robots. So that is either going to that's going to make or break AI, I think.
And I think these few numbers would also be good for me to read. It says, here's what's actually happening behind the scenes. This week, all four tech giants reported earnings at once, and every single one dropped a spending number that made Wall Street lose its mind. Amazon with $200 billion in capex, Google with $185 billion. Wall Street expected $120 billion. Stock dropped 5%. Meta $135 billion, and Meta has completely flopped their whole AI stuff and their metaverse things, double what they spent last year. Microsoft down 17% this year, worst performer in the group, and now their CEO is also in
I think trouble. A lot of these AI companies are going to end up collapsing, and they're going to get gobbled up by a few of the very, very large companies that actually have products that they can use, one of those being robots and Elon Musk.
But I do really hope most of them realize that it's not worth it, and I hope humans don't continue to try to.
There's a bubble there. They know
it.
there's a bubble there. They're talking about they're going to need a government bailout. I mean, that's the word on the street right now. Nobody wants to see AI companies get a government bailout. Nobody wanted banks to get a government bailout. Let them drown on their own.
Mm-hmm. But moving on. From Eric Doherty, quote, "Holy smokes, Democrats are erupting in panic after American parents say they're getting absolutely enormous tax refunds this year because President Trump's no tax on overtime."
Yeah, and this is one of the stories that I was talking about, but there was quite a few clips like this. I just wanted to highlight kind of one of them because I know I was highlighting no tax on tips coming up to tax season. I didn't know if it was actually going to be a thing, and it seems like it is.
Trump's big, beautiful bill promised no taxes on overtime. My husband works 6 days a week as a machinist at Anheuser-Busch so that I can stay home and raise our 3 kids that are all under 5. Big, beautiful bill just made it so that he did not have to pay taxes on any of that overtime. Our refund is huge this year. Thank you, President Trump. You came through. We just got a fat, fat check coming our way.
Yeah, and I used to work a lot of overtime in Canada. At a certain point in Canada, they take so much taxes, it's not even worth working the overtime. I would rather refuse it if I had the option. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I didn't have the option, so I couldn't. Yeah. That being said, I do want to highlight the fact that there are also other clips coming out of blue states where the blue governors of those states are refusing to actually implement a lot of these tax policies, so people aren't getting their full refunds.
And that's insane.
Because they don't like it because it's a Trump policy, and they know it will affect the midterms if they give out large sums of cash.
But also for parents, the whole children investment account was a great idea, and that it's not getting any coverage and nobody's talking about it. But they even had a commercial during the Super Bowl.
Well, and the reason he's able to give all this money out is simply the tariffs. The tariffs is what's giving him all this extra money, and he's able to completely restructure the economy and give money back to the middle class, the working class, the ones that actually make America work.
And I think it's good that this is coming, tax season is coming before the midterms too, because a lot of people have been complaining about the economy and Trump's not doing what he said he would. But if more and more people do start seeing positive results, we're going to take a little bit of time, as we mentioned last year when he first started implementing them. Well, then that might actually give a boost to the Republicans.
Yeah, it's a little bit early. So by the time the midterms run around, people might forget about it, especially in the summertime when I'm expecting massive protests and stuff like this.
Especially given the World Cup in Canada, Mexico, and the U.S.
Yeah.
There's going to be massive protests, but also the Democrats are having to accept and are now crying about maybe.
But I want to point one more thing out. The Supreme Court is going to come back with a ruling, and a lot of experts say they're going to deem these tariffs illegal, and Trump's has some strategies to kind of rework it. But if he has to give a lot of the money back, at least a lot of these tax refunds went out now and not after, because I don't think he would have been able to do them after.
Mm-hmm. But as I was saying, another interesting thing that has come up lately with the whole Epstein file dump, the latest Epstein file dump, is that Trump might have actually, it might have been a 5D chess move or an art of war chess move.
You believe it more. I put
so.
this story in for you because you believe it. I don't believe it as much.
Matt Nuclear said, and I wouldn't say vindicated, but at least, the Democrats can't keep hammering on that horse. New FBI documents show that Trump reportedly thanked Palm Beach police for investigating Epstein and urged them to focus on Maxwell, calling her Epstein's operative. This was all in 2006, before it was popular to hate Epstein.
Yeah, and although this is coming out now, I still think the Epstein files were a huge failure on Trump's part.
And I will agree with that, but now it might make, if you really want to get into the weeds and the conspiracy theory, it might give more credence to the fact why Trump was saying, no, I don't want to release them. No, I don't want to release them, to get the Democrats all riled up. And then he releases them, and he's basically the good guy in the whole story.
Okay, let's play the clip so people know what we're talking about.
It turns out Trump was being honest about his involvement with Epstein. A new article from the New York Times reads, Trump told Palm Beach police chief, thank goodness you're stopping Epstein. And he also called Ghislaine Maxwell, quote, evil in a 2006 phone call. And this is in reference to newly released FBI documents. Furthermore, Donald Trump personally called the police chief of Palm Beach, Florida in 2006 to thank him for investigating Jeffrey Epstein and told him to, quote, focus on the disgraced financier's evil accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, according to a newly released FBI document. Trump also referred to Maxwell as, quote, Epstein's operative, telling the chief she is evil and to focus on her. This was all in 2006, before it was popular to hate Epstein or to dislike Epstein, before any of the Epstein drama. Trump was calling the police chief, telling him, hey, Ghislaine Maxwell is Epstein's operative. This guy is a weirdo. Look into him. All in 2006, by the way. Turns out Trump was right.
And I think what Trump did was use these files as leverage. And that's why he was able to get the amount of success he was in this first year. I don't necessarily like it. I could have done with a little less success and just absolutely drain the swamp, release these files, burn the bridges. That's what people wanted to see.
And I do agree with your theory of he might have been using it the same way basically Epstein was using it to get one over people and get people to kind of at least placate or do half of what he was wanting them to do. And instead of firing them and convicting them. I do think there's still convictions left to happen. There's been almost none. I mean, Ghislaine Maxwell, but that's it.
Well, I think he went over to see King Charles and a lot of people in the EU, and he was using those files as leverage. That's how he got a lot of those tariff deals. And I think the UK just told him straight up no. And that's why the main people that get hit are primarily in the UK right now and in the EU.
Yeah, in Norway. But also about Trump and success story too. From Eric Doherty, quote, Holy See, experts stunned after the Trump economy doubles the expected jobs growth at a whopping 130,000 plus jobs for January and minus 34,000 government jobs.
This was absolutely huge. The jobs report was actually very big. Trump's kind of winning on every level when it comes to the economy right now, and it's just gearing up. When the summer and the midterms come, I think you're really going to see those results. Before this report came out, a lot of Democrats were saying this is going to be absolutely devastating. Why? Because Trump absolutely decimated government workers. He's just firing government workers left and right, which a lot of people want to see. That's one way to drain the swamp. But in the private sector, the massive amounts of jobs are being created right now, much more than expected.
Now from Cheryl. 130,000 jobs created for the month of January. The estimate was 70,000. Wow, I was right, Maria. 4.3% is the unemployment rate. The street was looking for 4.4%. This is not the kind of report we expected to see, guys. Let me give you the government jobs picture. That is negative 42,000 on the government side part of the equation. We saw that in the reports previously. We also saw a labor force participation rate, 62.5%. Average hourly earnings, 0.41%. That is actually higher than the expectations. Average hourly earnings month to month, a little bit higher than expected. Private payrolls, 172,000. I had to do a double take. 172,000 private jobs. Guys, that's 100,000 above the estimate. We were looking for 70,000. The average work week, 34.3.
Okay. Yeah. And that's good. And yeah, I just want to highlight a lot of these things because as we start gearing up into the summer, I think you're going to see a lot of these results and people are going to be like, where's this coming from? We've kind of been talking about it all year. It's actually from his policies. So he's been laying the groundwork and now it's a lot of the stuff is starting to come to fruition. But in the summertime, I think we're really going to see it.
But we also saw, Today, I believe, from Nick Sortor, quote, the U.S. House has just voted to terminate President Trump's tariffs on Canada, 219 to 211. Absolutely freaking insane. These people desperately want America to lose.
Yeah, and it's actually not going to happen because this has to go through... it also has to go through this was the House. It also has to go through the Senate. Plus, Trump can actually veto it on his desk. If he vetoes it, it has to go back for another vote, and they have to get a 2/3 vote, not a simple majority. So there's no way this is going to pass. If you're from Canada, don't get too excited. It looks like it's going worse and worse for Canada every day. Trump's now talking about pulling the USMCA off the table and completely renegotiating it. And when I say renegotiating it, I mean, I don't think they're going to get a deal at all.
And I mean, the winner in all of that continues to be Mexico, as we continue to say. And it seems like a lot of Canadians are not understanding that.
Well, and Mexico has been cooperating, even if a lot of Americans are watching the show and say, well, it doesn't look like Sheinbaum's cooperating. On a surface level, no, she's not. And Trump's given her that leeway to say, you can play to your base, but behind the scenes, you need to cooperate.
And
She's
she is.
100% on board with America.
Yeah.
If America succeeds right now, Mexico's going to succeed because they're connected at the hip. Even though she's a leftist, she's chose the right direction for the country, at least when it comes to their relationship with America. Canada has done the complete opposite at this point.
Although Mexico does continue to send apparently now covert barrels of oil to Cuba to continue furthering their dictatorship. No, they successfully did it. Now it's been confirmed that she sent trucks with hidden oil barrels inside. But I was also thinking that might be another kind of 5D chess move where she's actually giving fodder for the U.S. to do something in Cuba.
Yeah, I mean, it could be that. There could be something in the oil. It could be sabotaged, all kinds of things. If you sabotage the oil and then you put the stuff into equipment, it's absolutely going to devastate the economy.
And because she is getting a lot of flack for that locally in Mexico by political commentators and both people in her own party as well, because she has lied and said, no, we're not sending anything. But it could be cooperation with the U.S. Who knows?
Yeah, not who knows.
Well, yeah.
She's 100% cooperating, especially a major geopolitical move like that. It's not going down without Trump's approval, especially because we know she's cooperating behind the scenes so much. But Trump understands there's two sides here. She has to play to the public and then behind the scenes what's happening.
Yes. I was going to say something else and I forgot.
And I think we're going to go into the EU next.
Yes, EU. Because we have no comments. Let us know what you're thinking.
I think you scared them all off with the health and MAHA section.
Sorry. Let me know what you think about that, and I'll read your comment.
Okay, let's go into the EU. And man, this is big news in the EU, which is absolutely disgusting. Mm-hmm. The first story we're going to go into the EU, I actually had to do a 3-parter here.
Oh, sorry. And yes, if you haven't heard, well, let's start here. From Grifty, quote, it has been revealed that desperate Keir Starmer told his members of parliament, back me or I can call an election and you're all finished. He warned them, try a Rayner coup and I'll force a snap election. You'll all lose your seats. Cabinet ministers scramble with public loyalty posts as Keir fights for survival in the Mandelson-Epstein scandal storm.
Yeah, and this is just the first part. You're going to see as we kind of unwind this thing, the UK government is just steeped in corruption, steeped in Epstein files. Keir Starmer, it's time for him to step down. There's calls for him to step down. I'll be surprised if he lasts the week. All kinds of MPs and people in his party are stepping down right now on a massive scale.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, that we have seen a bunch.
And now he doesn't know what to do. I mean, all he can do is threaten them.
And also this, which just makes everything way too obvious, from Europa, quote, the Ministry of Justice in the UK has ordered the deletion of the UK's largest court reporting archive.
And we're going to explain this in the next 2 articles. So we'll just give we'll give the dry version here, and then we'll go into what this actually means, because there's major implications here.
So Courts Desk, a platform launched to improve media access to magistrates' court data, has been ordered to delete its archive of records by, who else? David Lammy, Ministry of Justice. According to Courts Desk, the platform has since been used by more than 1,500 journalists from 39 media organizations, and the data provided has highlighted serious failures in the court system. It said journalists were given no advance notice of 1.6 million criminal hearings. The number of court cases listed was accurate on just 4.2% of sitting days, and 500,000 weekend cases were heard with no notification to the press.
And this is kind of putting it nicely here. We're going to actually go on to what they are actually doing here, and they're trying to erase the data for a lot of these grape gangs and things that were going on within the country and a lot of the immigration issues that were happening. They want to erase that data.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and that was David Lammy, by the way. Very British. Also from Europa, quote, Keir Starmer has initiated the biggest cover-up in modern British history.
And this is what we were just talking about.
And Starmer has approved of it too.
This may be the biggest cover-up in UK history. So these same court records that helped expose rape and grooming gangs across the UK are now being ordered to be destroyed. Interesting that this is happening at the exact same time as Rupert Lowe's rape gang inquiry. They are literally deleting the evidence during the rape gang inquiry, with Starmer's full backing. The Ministry of Justice has ordered the Court Desk archive, which is relied on by over 1,500 journalists, to be deleted in full. But Court Desk wasn't just a database. It's used by journalists to highlight serious failures in the court system, so missed hearings, repeat offenders, instances constitutional negligence. It's used in the interest of open justice. But Starmer has approved the deletion of this, and it will happen in days. We are literally living in George Orwell's 1984. What happened to justice has to be seen to be done. They don't care. Starmer doesn't care about any of the women and girls that were raped and tortured by Pakistani grooming gangs. He doesn't care about the victims then. He doesn't care about the victims now. They don't care if it continues. We are living in actual hell. That this country is hell. Starmer is a very
Okay, and you can leave it there.
Man, yeah.
This being said, this is what I talk about. We need radical transparency when it comes to the court system. We need things like this. And now the public has the tool of AI, so it's much easier to look through these files, find the information that you need, and the government doesn't like it. That's why they want to get rid of this. And I'm going to guess that they're not going to start publishing any new files either. I mean, the amount of cover-up and the blatant cover-up here, while the trials are going on and the inquiries are actually going on about these grape gangs, everybody knows about this. I mean, Keir Starmer thinks, what? I'm going to bring censorship into the UK so nobody's going to be able to find anything out, and then I'm just going to delete the files. Everybody already knows. Yeah.
And as much as they have tried to hide it already, they haven't been able to. And this is why they want to censor X and get it out of the country. It's not about his bikini pictures. It's about actual information that the people and some of the testimonies from the people that have suffered through this, the women and girls, that they don't want to get out because they want to continue to defend because they're disgusting people. They're disgusting people. Well, then...
Well, also, that's a great point. It's all about X because you can have independent journalists go into these files, but what are they going to really do with it if they don't have a platform that's the number one news outlet in the world? I mean, this thing goes global, and these are major scandals after major scandals, and it falls on Keir Starmer's head. So they want to get rid of the files. They want to get rid of X for the long-term benefit of what? A consolidation of power and corruption.
And they want to take over the internet, and now they have their Digital Services Act, and they're using it. The excuse they're using is the most egregious one because they're using the excuse of the safety of girls and children and we have to protect the children. But we're going to delete all the court files that would have exemplified.
All the evidence.
Yeah, all the evidence that would have exemplified exactly that we're not doing that. Also, Keir Starmer from Radio Genoa, quote, Keir Starmer says there is no money for British pensioners. Instead, there is money for hotels and subsidies for fake asylum seekers without documents. Too many countries in Europe are governed by criminals.
How can he even say this? Let's play the video and then we'll talk about it.
Pensioners are older people in the UK.
Yeah, and I understand they're out of money, but for you to say we're out of money and then the general public's going to have to make the cuts and suffer, you have this huge population of illegal immigrants and legal immigrants you can easily get rid of.
Why are you targeting the elderly to save money?
We have found a £22 billion black hole in the economy, and we've got to fix it. What we're not going to do is pretend it isn't there or paper over it. That's what the last government did, and it made it worse. That means we've got to make tough choices. I don't want to cut the winter fuel allowance. I don't think anybody government wants to do that, but we've got to fix the foundations of our economy. And that's what this is all about, making sure that we fix the foundations. And then having done that, that we can build a better future that pensioners and so many other people voted for in this election. So this is a tough decision. Not a decision I want to make, but I'm absolutely determined. We'll stabilise the economy and fix the foundations. And then on that, we will build the better Britain that we were elected into government with a strong mandate to bring about.
Why are you
this
targeting?
is just bullshit. I mean, it's obvious. You just go after people that are non-citizens. Stop giving out these unlimited welfare programs, healthcare to legal and illegal immigrants. Get rid of them. Have a Donald Trump strategy in the UK. You'll win back the trust of your people, and you'll be able to get rid of a lot of that debt.
And again, he's taking money away from the pensioners or essentially the elderly who helped build the Britain that now many people live in today. And you're also running out of younger people, which is why you're letting all of these illegal migrants come into the country in the first place.
Oh yeah, the people that helped build the country, I'm going to take all the money from them. And the people that are destroying the country, I'm going to give it to them.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's where the moral foundation continues to lack. Michael A. Arwet says, quote, Germany invested $500 billion and now produce 20% less electricity at 3 times the price. Industrial production imploded. Same goods are produced in Asia, but now with higher emissions. And Germany still generates 5 times more emissions per kilowatt than France. This is all due to the climate policies that Germany continued to implement.
And Canada. And a lot of other
Europe.
Western countries other than the United States. But the United States now, under Trump, is really setting a framework where these other countries can follow if they want to get out of these energy black holes they've created for themselves.
But also, let's remember Donald Trump telling the Germans specifically at the UN Council that they were going to be suffering pretty soon, and they were all laughing at him in his face for saying that.
The things you never hear about is total primary energy consumption in the United States is now over 72% comes from two energy sources, oil and natural gas. Record high market share, little in addition to volumes. Doesn't quite sound like the dying industry I've been hearing about for the last 15 years. But if you roll over to the electricity sector, it's a very different story. In the oil and gas production segment, declining capital intensity, increasing efficiency, surging production. What's happening in the electricity sector? Surging investments, gigantic amount of monies are flowing in. And what's been the net result of that? Almost no growth at all in the production of electricity, but significant growth in the price of electricity. If you make electricity more expensive and people don't know where that policy is going to go, guess what? Energy intensive industry leaves your country. The United Kingdom and Germany are experts at that, and they can tell you. In Germany, they've invested $500 billion, more than doubled the capacity of their electricity grid, and they produce 20% less electricity than they did before the $500 billion investment, and they sell it at 3 times the price. Like, that is not a winning model. That is not what the world is going to duplicate. We have just gotten so far off track. Think of our industry, smart, detailed analyzing, physics, numbers, math. But when it comes to climate change, we just check rationality at the door. Forget it. That doesn't apply over here. It's only about decarbonizing and claiming we're in the middle of an energy transition. That's just, I think we are in the midst of the greatest malinvestment in human history.
Okay, and you can leave it there. And this was a huge scam. Number one, they're creating less energy, and they had $500 billion investment. I mean, this was going into politicians' pockets. If you don't know who Mark Carney is, he's the Prime Minister of Canada. He's comes from the banking industry, and he's really been the global architect of this carbon capture system. And it's all this is what the entire future economy was supposed to be based upon for these globalists. And it's really showing to be a fraud. And now that Donald Trump has a different strategy, and that strategy is actually working and benefiting the people themselves.
And also, again, they started relying on Russia, and then they sanctioned, and then it all became a mess. Sorry, I couldn't talk. But now going back to the UK, and this story has also been unfortunately making the rounds.
And I think this is the last story in the UK, and then we're going to go to Canada. There's big news in Canada as well.
Yeah. From Britain is broken, quote, police are refusing to admit the double stabbing at Kingsbury School yesterday was terror related. The police say they are keeping an open mind to any motivation. Funnily enough, Canada is doing very similar tactics, but in a different sense.
Well, yeah, and I put this story as the last story within the EU section because this relates to the first story in the Canadian section. By the way, when you do read the Canadian story, there's a couple keywords you can't say.
I'm good at not saying words.
YouTube is bringing censorship back for a few things.
I'm really good at not saying words. A 13-year-old boy jabbed 2 other boys, 12 and 13.
We can play the clip here.
Yes, a sad morning here at Kingsbury High School. You can see the lower school behind me, police presence still here on the scene. They were called at about 12:40 yesterday to a stabbing where they found a 13-year-old boy. And once they came onto the site, they also found that a 12-year-old boy had been stabbed also. The suspect currently in custody, a 13-year-old boy, and witnesses have claimed that the attacker shouted Allahu Akbar as he went to stab the first suspect. Now, witnesses also claimed that he came into the school by climbing over a fence and that he left the scene just after, though he was taken into custody.
And you can leave it there. And good on GB News for actually reporting what the kid said, because we're going to see in a moment the Canadian news.
Canadian tactics.
The Canadian tactics kind of backfired, and eventually they had to come out and say what happened in the identity of this person. But when they did, it was still a disgrace in the manner in which they did it. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's go into Canada.
Well, we do have some
comments.
We do. Hold on. Sirius says, haha, I don't remember what that one was. And Sirius also says, I believe Americans rather imagine Sheinbaum managing Mexico working with the U.S. as a myth, but it'll be good to hear about it in the future. And again, if you just read the mainstream news and if you just look at it through the lens of, well, both the U.S. and Mexican mainstream media, they will continue to say Sheinbaum doesn't want to cooperate, they're standing strong and the sovereignty, blah, blah, blah. But if you look a bit further into what's actually going on behind the scenes and what the types of talks that are happening, because some people that know and are in the know about all of these things have come out to talk and to say, well, no, there's actually way more cooperation. She's not happy about it, but she knows that she's between a rock and a hard place, because a lot of the people that the U.S. is actually looking into and has started to make files about are within the Morena party, which is her party. So she's walking a tightrope, and I think she understands what's most convenient for her in the long term and for the country too, and that is to cooperate with the U.S.
Well, yeah, and if Trump's tariff policy is successful, or the U.S. is successful, and right now the U.S. is growing at a faster rate than China. This is the first time this has happened in God knows how long, and it's only been 1 year of Trump. But if the United States succeeds, Mexico is going to succeed. Mexico's next election isn't until 2030. I mean, this would be a huge benefit for her. I don't like her because she's a far left ideologue. Trump's doing her a huge favor by pushing her back to the middle, even if it's reluctantly on her part.
And Rafa, hello Rafa, thank you for being here. Rafa says, hello, is this a Candace Owens roast? Well, that happened like 2 hours ago, but
yeah.
Yes, essentially. But now we're getting into the more sad, serious, and interesting news of what happened in Canada. But before that, Sirius says, wow, indoctrination does get the worst out of asocial people.
Yeah.
And Sirius says, let's go, Mexico. Again, Mexico's also starting a bunch of deportations. So yeah, in a way, yes.
Yeah.
But let's go to Canada. Again, sad news. And do you want to start it?
Just read it like a normal person. You don't have to act all sad about it. Just
I'm not acting sad about it. I am sad about it.
Okay, let's go into it.
So if you didn't know, because we don't have like an opening story about this, but do you want to say it or should I say it?
You go ahead. You're better at monitoring your words. A lot of people that are talking about this story are getting censored on YouTube right now. Yes. Videos are getting taken down, strikes against them. So we have to be careful how we touch on this subject. That's why we put it later on in the broadcast as well.
So yesterday in Canada, a place called Tumbler Ridge in British Columbia, it was reported that a person unalived 9 other people at a high school, and police were very reluctant to mention who this person was.
And injured 25.
And injured 25 others, yes. Children, a lot of them. And they were reluctant to say who the person that did the unaliving was, and eventually they did come out. It did come out. The information came out through independent media, through Juno News, of who the actual person was, and it seems like it was another case of a person that of a man that thinks he's a woman. That's how I will put it.
Well, and also originally when the Canadian police were talking about this, they just said she, and it was actually a man.
And mentioned also, they were calling this man a gun person for a bit there too. Billboard Chris, who is very involved in this because he advocates against basically what got this man to do what he did, or this kid, because he's 17, to do what he did, says the unaliver is a 17-year-old named Jesse Strang. The 13th birthday picture is from 2021, and then there's more recent ones.
And the Canadian government's going to love something like this because they're trying to come after Canadians' guns. Canada has more guns per capita than the United States, but they have extremely low crime with those guns. Some of the most well-behaved citizens on earth when it comes to their guns.
And Billboard Chris also says, here's a more recent picture, long hair and dress, because they reported it as a woman in a dress, which was a weird way to put it, caused our media in Canada to call him female. Our police called him a gun person. He was a young man who needed serious help for his mental health. Instead, his delusion was affirmed, and the result is unalived innocent children, as we have seen over and over again also in the U.S.
Yeah, let's go into the other ones that I had with the Canadian Police Department.
Do you want me to go to... Oh, because we did have this.
Oh, you grabbed a bunch of...
News.
Okay.
From Juno News, they said, Juno News confirms Tumbler Ridge unaliver was a man who thought he was a woman, or a kid man who thought he was a woman. A tragic mass ending in Tumbler Ridge, BC, leaves 9 unalived and dozens injured, as RCMP withhold details, and Juno News is the first outlet to confirm the identity of the 17-year-old suspect. I just wanted that bit of information as well. I wasn't sure if the Billboard Chris post had it, but let's see the police and see how they were,
And
you know,
this was the
bouncing around
next day
sector.
when they tried to sell a false identity for this individual. Then it was reported by independent news who this individual was and what was kind of going on. And now this is the second day where the police department's actually coming clean, but they're still doing it in a despicable way.
From Libs of TikTok, quote, WTF, the Canadian police announced that they're respecting the preferred pronouns of this unaliver and how he identified.
We're not hiding it. In fact, you're the first media to ask the question. I will say this. We identify the suspect as they chose to be identified in public and in social media. I can say that Jesse was born as a biological male who approximately, the information that I have, approximately 6 years ago began to transition to female and identified as female, both socially and we're not hiding it. In fact,
Yeah, and they're claiming they don't know what the motivation. This is obviously SSRIs and all kinds of other craziness
No,
here.
it is the mutilation pipeline that Canada has completely bought into and actually mostly essentially forced kids into. Again, he just said that the guy was 12 when they started he said 6 years ago, the guy's 17. So he was 12 when they started transitioning him. Who knows how many substances he was on and he was given and how much affirmation he was given both by parents, community, doctors, etc. Because in Canada, you can't actually go against it because then you're accused of conversion therapy. So you cannot not affirm, you have to affirm minors because otherwise you're involved in conversion therapy
Yeah,
to get them back to their actual biological sex.
It's affirmation only treatment. So there's only one form of treatment, and that's the transition children. And also there's massive hate speech laws in Canada. So, I mean, when people are coming out saying, oh, they were picked on, the victimizer is actually the victim here because he was picked on for so long, I find it hard to believe. And even if it is, you need to grow a thick skin. I was picked on growing up for a long time.
So was I.
I didn't go do anything like this.
No. And we have, I mean, again, this is not the first kind of person with this specific mental illness that we've seen unalive and cause massive harm. I mean, again, Charlie Kirk's assassination. Candace Owens is insane and doesn't want to believe it, but that is just one example of a list that now I think is at 14 with this one or 15 and has a very high probability and statistic now that we're seeing it continuing to happen. And again, it could be either one of two things. It's either like the chicken before the egg or the egg before the chicken egg.
Well, they're currently having a gun grab in Canada.
Well, that too.
They're currently having a gun grab and trying to outlaw thousands of different kinds of guns in Canada that were previously legal. And they're going to use this as an excuse to go in there with force now.
But with this and the way that it works with the kids that are essentially mutilated and put into this pipeline, and we're seeing all of this violence happen, it could be either, you know, as a consequence, we see the violence, or it is violent individuals that are antisocial and don't really know how to interact with the public, are having issues already, mental health issues, and then they're affirmed into thinking that they're trans, and that's how it kind of goes.
Okay, let's continue on here.
I don't know how I can block the words here, but I mean, therefore I am says, quote, holy S Canadian lesbian.
No, just play the clip here because they are censoring this too much. I don't want to read a lot of the headlines.
Yes.
As a person who went to school, had hateful comments directed my way. The first victim of this tragedy was the shooter. And you can disagree all you want. But that person did not just decide one day that it was the day. It was the day that they could not take it any longer. I know it's a small community, but you know what also comes with a small community? A small mindset. An uneducation to understand that maybe difference is okay. The first victim to this tragedy was the shooter. Verbal abuse is what pushes people to a point where they don't feel worthy to be here any longer. And I only know this because I am a victim of this still to this day.
Yeah, and
I mean, that is the ethos of the left. Words equal violence, so we can do actual violence to you, which is insane. And the fact that they're still trying to bring this up and use it as an excuse is also insane. It is the reason, basically, when I finally snapped and realized when I was super woke that it was insane to equate actual violence with words or violence, because they're not, and this is not a justification, but
they want to use this on. This is a two-pronged approach for this this individual here. Number one, they want to bring in more hate speech laws.
Yes.
So to more and more censorship, not only online but in the real world. And then number two, they want to glorify the victimizer themselves.
But I will say, in a way, and to agree with Billboard Chris, in a way, this person is right, because I will agree with her. And I will say her, that the unaliver was a victim, but he was a victim of a system that works on an affirm-only model that transitions kids into a pipeline of mutilation, essentially.
One more thing about that. They recently had the conservative convention. Conservative convention, which Pierre Poilievre won, but they voted in to continue this affirmation model only. And this is the Conservative Party in Canada. The only politician in Canada that seems to be willing to stand up against things like this is Maxime Bernier. We did do a video on him. We're going to be releasing it later this week, but it's good that there's one. I didn't even realize. I mean, I have always liked Maxime Bernier, but he's stuck to the hard line of what a real conservative should be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we can go into the next.
Yes, moving on from that story. But from CBC Watcher, quote, in the early 1990s, provincial governments in Canada became convinced the best way to control medical costs was to cut the number of family doctors. They got this idea from university academics, always with the best ideas, so-called healthcare economists, whose flawed advice was an example of the dangers of relying on experts with little knowledge of frontline healthcare. Despite warnings from Canada's medical colleges that this would inevitably lead to a national doctor shortage that we're seeing today, the province has stalled funding, cut enrollments in medical schools, and capped residences. As predicted, this led to today's doctor shortage.
Anybody that lives in Canada knows it's impossible to get a family doctor. The only way you go is to the 24-hour clinic, and it's like emergency care.
Emergency, yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. Yeah, they have socialized medicine that doesn't work. It's completely broken. Anybody that tells you otherwise is just lying to you. You don't get good service at all.
Again, even as Canada's aging population requires more care and the baby boom generation of doctors are retiring, which and they also haven't fixed the whole part where even if they import doctors into Canada, they have to still go through.
Well,
they can't start practicing.
We're going into that later because I actually have a Middle East section today, and people are getting busted in India en masse for these fake diplomas. The problem with these fake diplomas is people are actually immigrating to countries like Canada using the diploma and going directly into these medical fields.
Moving on. From Mario Celaya, whom I really like, go follow him, Mario for the North, at Mario for the North. Quote, Carney's new government met with the CEO of DP World.
And I think we can go right into the clip because he usually explains it pretty well.
Yes.
I'm warning you now, this video is probably going to upset a lot of people. Check this out. So Carney's government put out this press release, and you can see it for yourself on the Government of Canada's website. And in their own words, they're building on the momentum of Prime Minister Mark Carney's recent engagement in the U.A.E. So his government visited the Middle East and they met up with this guy, Ahmed bin Sulayem, the group chairman and the CEO of DP World. Well, it turns out that CEO is also a close friend of Jeffrey Epstein. In fact, they discussed sex with young women in emails. And this is the breaking news. Quebec's pension fund, the second biggest pension fund in Canada.
Yeah, and pause it for a sec. I forgot to explain. This is kind of tying all the Epstein files to Mark Carney in so many ways.
The deal with DP World over Epstein's emails. And what I also don't think has been covered enough is how Mark Carney and his wife are seen pictured here with Ghislaine Maxwell. And for those who don't know who she is, she's, let's say, the right-hand woman that stood by Epstein throughout his whole, I'll call it, brutal period of time. And it wasn't some random one-off picture. It seems as though they actually had some conversations. In fact, our Prime Minister is being seen here on his hands and knees with a convict. And I will leave it there. But this is an internationally convicted criminal. What is also factually true is that Mark Carney has shown up 69 times in the Epstein files. Now, I'm going to show you the double standard. 69 times for Mark Carney.
Yeah, and the gentleman on the left is Mark Carney, 69 times in the Epstein files. Pierre Poilievre, absolutely zero. If Pierre Poilievre showed up there even once, it would have been all over Canadian media nonstop.
0 times for Pierre Poilievre. And of course, CBC rushed right out to say, fact check, is Prime Minister Mark Carney in the Epstein files? The short answer is yes, he is. The long answer, to which Toronto Star went in great depth and great detail to defend, was, well, it's not what you think it is. And truthfully, it's not. I'm not drawing any conclusions and I'm not implying anything of the sort. But what I will say is this, that Mark Carney did attend Prince Andrew's palace dinner after the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. And this is true, where Carney attended a private dinner function hosted by Prince Andrew at Buckingham Palace. And for those who don't know, Prince Andrew was stripped of his titles. He was kicked out of his home amid this Epstein scandal. I do want to ask one thing. Will the government continue to support DP World, who actually owns major ports off the coast of British Columbia, or will they do the right thing just like the Quebec Pension Fund did? Because I find it concerning that our government is meeting with people like this.
Yeah, and Mark Carney's currently selling out the country to
everyone,
but primarily to not BlackRock, but
China.
No, his main company he works for in the United States.
Oh.
Why?
Now I forgot.
I've been talking about it all week in the edited videos.
Brookfield Asset Management.
Brookfield Asset Management, as well as China. I mean, Donald Trump needs to get him in line. Mark Carney is just going rogue. He is going to absolutely sink Canada. If there is a snap election, man, I just, all I can say is I hope Poilievre actually wins, But
also, we are seeing the mainstream media in Canada continue to lie about the Alberta separatist movement and now trying to manufacture polls that make no sense. And we'll see, you'll see why in a second. Mark Nixon says, quote, new Angus Reid poll today indicates majority of Albertans want to stay in Canada, which is what the mainstream media and Mark Carney and everybody else has been trying to say. But the poll shows only 29% of Albertans want independence. Why do I feel this number is low? And I will tell you before we watch the video, because they only polled 997 people from Calgary. So that's not a representative enough number. And if you just look at the lines of people that are going to actually sign and are trying to vote to continue the referendum, you'll
I want
understand.
to point something out here that if you go back to the top there, it says they have 29%. With the Brexit vote, it only took 30%. So the fact that they're already hitting that number now is actually a huge accomplishment, but it's actually around 41% if you look at real polling that's not trying to have something for the mainstream media that they rigged.
And that is a bit more broad as well.
Yeah, this is just a propaganda piece, but I want to show you that they're starting to pay attention to this Alberta separatist movement because it has real legs.
Scared.
We're a big supporter here on this channel of the Alberta separatist movement. This next week coming up, I have a lot of videos about the major figures within the Alberta separatist movement, whether it's Jeffrey Rath or Keith Wilson. Oh, Keith Wilson. I was going to say Keith Woods. Let's go here.
He's not good with names.
Angus Reid poll on Alberta separation is out today. And that new data shows that despite much noise by Alberta separatists wanting to leave Canada, the vast majority of Albertans want to stay.
There seems to be this momentum behind the separatist movement. However, this latest data from Angus Reid shows that less than 30% of Albertans actually support this idea. Now, according to the Angus Reid poll, 29% of Albertans support separation. And of that number, only 8% say they are definitely leaning that way, while another 21% would be leaning sort of. Now, but take a look at that. 57% are solidly behind staying
Okay, and you can leave
within...
it, you can stop it there. That 57%, I think they have a strategy. Number one, Mark Carney's going to have a snap election, and they're going to pit nationalists against separatists, and then sprinkle a lot of TDS on top of that. And Mark Carney thinks that's enough to win, and possibly it is. But also, they want to set up this narrative of 57% of the people want to stay. I think they're going to try to flood Alberta with immigrants to vote to stay with Canada. I think they're already doing that, and I think they want to have this polling to kind of show that when these polls come in, that people aren't saying, oh, it's immigrants that are voting against it. But
they're also, they're showing their hand that they're really scared because, again, they're having to make up fake polls and say, no, most of Alberta doesn't actually want to separate. And now they're actually having to talk about it because for the longest time, they were trying to ignore it. Nobody was covering this until it became a real possibility. And because of that, they started covering it.
Yeah,
So they're telling on themselves.
It's also getting a lot of censorship, even amongst the Conservative Party. This is something they don't want to talk about. They want to sweep to the side.
It's not convenient.
Thanks to Danielle Smith, she has given the ability for the people to actually vote on this. So I give praises to her. Even though she's a national leader, she's providing a safety net for the separatist movement if it does fail.
Talking about the convention, this man, the big fat fish. From Harrison Faulkner, quote, Doug Ford on Pierre Poilievre says you don't win elections at conventions. And Doug Ford is vying heavily to be the representative of the Conservative Party.
He wants to be the next Conservative Party leader. And if he is, he's going to be another Aaron O'Toole, maybe even worse. He is literally just a fat liberal standing there. And yeah.
Have you given any advice to Pierre Poilievre? Have you given any advice to Pierre Poilievre about the possible election?
No. I saw Pierre at the portrait hanging of Prime Minister Harper. Shook hands, said hello, congratulated him, and for what? For getting a convention. Yeah, 80-some-odd%. But anyways, you don't win elections at conventions. You win elections across the country. So let's see what happens if the Prime Minister decides to call elections.
Have you given any advice?
Yeah, it's not worth winning an election if you're just going to be the exact same thing as the opposition. He calls himself a conservative. He's nothing more than a liberal. He's trying to position himself. If Pierre Poilievre loses a second election, he can snake his way in there to leader of the Conservative Party. He's working hand in hand with Mark Carney. He is to Mark Carney what Jagmeet Singh was to Justin Trudeau. So.
And also, we have been talking, or we released a video about the Canadian military, and now some more stuff has come up about that. From Arzalaya, quote, Liberals discreetly put money down on 14 additional F-35s. This is in addition to the contract for a first order of 16 F-35s. Liberals try to keep this private. A confidential source came forward, and he thinks it's time we share it with the world. Secrets don't make friends.
Well, I think this is actually a good sign. Mark Carney needs to start cooperating with the United States, even if it is behind the scenes and he didn't want this to leak. Stuff like this is what Mexico is doing, and they've been doing all the way along. The problem is it too little too late for Mark Carney? We know the election's coming up, so he's trying to sign this deal in order to get some kind of tariff deal before that election.
And yet, he continues on this. From Mr. Sunshine Baby, quote, Mark Carney says he spoke to Donald Trump about the construction of Gordie Howe Bridge between Canada and Michigan. He says that the building of this bridge is in the interest of both countries. So now he's trying to placate maybe a little bit.
Yeah, Canada paid for this bridge. Canada built the majority of this bridge. This is going to backfire if Donald Trump puts a stop to it before it's just entering its final phase of completion here.
Pardon me. So the first thing to say is there's a big game today, and the president and I discussed the Canada-U.S. game, and of course we're all behind our team. Secondly, we discussed a number of issues, international issues. Thirdly, we discussed the bridge. I explained that Canada was paid for the construction of the bridge, over $4 billion, that the ownership is shared between the state of Michigan and the government of Canada, and that in the construction of the bridge, obviously there's Canadian steel, Canadian workers, but also U.S. steel, U.S. workers that are involved. This is a great example of cooperation between our countries. Look forward to it opening. And what is particularly important, of course, is the commerce and the tourism and the voyages of Canadians and Americans.
Okay, you can leave it there. And this bridge is the big deal. Donald Trump, Mark Carney is the kind of guy that wants to buy some F-16s or whatever planes he's trying to buy in bulk, and then get the bridge deal done, and then do another deal here and another deal here. Donald Trump wants to package it all into one big deal, and Carney doesn't like that because it's going to mean taking down a lot of these huge tariffs Canada's had on the United States for a long, long time. When you hear Jeffrey Rath talk about if Alberta separates, the cooperation they want to have with the U.S., that's what Donald Trump originally offered Canada, that Canada never wants to talk about. They wanted to go 0 for 0 tariffs, just take all the tariffs down and have actual free trade on everything.
And yet, what Carney still doesn't seem to understand, and a lot of people don't understand, is that from Gunther Eagleman, quote, here's a cold, hard truth about Canada. They're 75% dependent on the U.S. for their GDP. Okay. They literally can't afford to play the antagonist game with the U.S., and they continue to do so, apparently.
So is it all about the president using tariffs as leverage here again, a higher tariff on Canada? I mean, I remember in Davos just a couple of weeks ago, the Canadian Prime Minister was, he was really pushing back on stage against President Trump in his speech.
The thing to keep in mind with Canada is this is a country that's 75% dependent on the United States for its gross domestic product. We're always going to have some kind of a trading relationship with Canada. We have to make sure that it's fair. We have to make sure that it's equal. It goes beyond economics. It goes to defense partnership, burden sharing with respect to NATO, the Golden Dome that the president's trying to establish. Just by pure geography, we're right next to Canada, and it means that we have to have a relationship that is effective for both of us.
Yeah.
It can't be a situation where the Canadians have an antagonistic relationship or where we can't, on a very pragmatic basis, figure out common interests and come to an understanding.
Great points all around. You've got an...
Okay, and Mark Carney's going to have a tough time because as long as he has a minority government, there's always that chance of a snap election, and there's definitely going to be one coming up. Claudia Sheinbaum, on the other hand, doesn't have an election until 2030, and it's not even her. She can't run again. So she's looking at more of a long-term vision, and that's why she's able to cooperate a lot more. Mark Carney really he uses TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, and the separatist movement, pitting them against nationalists. That's going to be a strategy in this election, and that's what's preventing him from really putting Canada first and getting a trade deal here.
And also, they have the largest unprotected border of any two countries. So there's also that, talking about military cooperation. But now for something that hits a lot closer to home, or at least our old home. And unfortunately, but maybe you'll get to see the reality we used to live in.
Yeah, we used to live right by here. And I actually used to work for London Drugs, not this particular location, but a location pretty near to here.
And this is in Gastown in downtown Vancouver, where we moved to after our initial apartment flooded.
Yeah, this is right by Skid Row, so it's a really bad area, but...
But there's nice, it used to be very nice. Where we used to live, it was nice, but not there. So Caroline Elliott says, quote, criminals walk free, stores close, jobs disappear. That's life under the NDP in British Columbia, and that has been life in British Columbia, at least for me in Vancouver, for the past 13 years.
Right here behind me, another neighborhood staple is disappearing from Vancouver's streets. London Drugs says they had no choice. Years of theft, rising losses, and employees who didn't feel safe walking through these doors.
Pause it.
Think about that.
Yeah, and there's a building right above this. It's like a small shopping center with a building right above it, and that's another scandal about just the Vancouver construction industry. Huge pieces of concrete are now falling off of that building because they rushed that building's construction.
But also because they wanted to use that building as shared housing or a community shared space for homeless people and others that do have to pay rent and who do have to maintain the building.
Spectacular jacuzzi and stuff and a gym and a rock climbing wall at the top of that building. But 20%, I believe it was 20% of the units were for low income housing. And so you had a lot of crackheads in the building that just kind of took over those spaces.
A 27,000 square foot store didn't fail. It was pushed out. Retailers say they only report about 15% of thefts, and shoplifting in Vancouver is up 91% in just 3 years. Workers are locking up merchandise, hiding products, and even warning each other by text when repeat offenders show up. And it's not just downtown. Small businesses across BC, family grocers, local shops, pharmacies are dealing with the same thing. When stores close, neighborhoods lose jobs. They lose services. They lose safety. This isn't complicated. Businesses deserve protection. Workers deserve safety. Communities deserve order. We can't accept this anymore. It's time to restore enforcement, back our police, and make our streets safe so businesses can stay open and British Columbians can thrive.
Okay, you can stop it there.
But I will also say, just pointing out to that building right before I move off of the screen, another egregious thing that happened in that building and that we used to point out and talk about, sorry, our dog is going crazy, that we used to point out and talk about all the time to each other was that the security guards for both the building and for London Drugs in that building, because again, it was walking distance from us, and if we needed toothpaste, we would go there, were all women. All the security guards in that building were teeny tiny, short. I mean, I'm really short, but like skinny, scrawny Indian girls.
Well, no, it didn't matter.
That were super scared of even being there. You could tell.
Because I used to work security, so I worked for security companies as well as bars, nightclubs, oil pipelines, underground mines. But what happened near the end of when I was doing security is you weren't allowed to actually do anything. Even if somebody else was assaulting somebody, you would lose your job if you did anything other than call the police. So you were
really
there.
You were there as a payphone.
Yeah, it was absolutely ridiculous. Now, I never kind of followed that. If something happened, I would actually take action. And if they wanted to fire me, they could. I would go find another job.
But also, like during your last job, you did see and the influx of especially Indian workers, and it was you and a bunch of other Indian people that worked at security. And what was horrible.
And there was quotas brought into the security industry where massive 50% of them had to be women. And they're like, I'm sorry, but they're useless when it comes to actually doing something or even like having a certain presence.
And what was horrible was watching these young girls that probably don't speak English that well, having to stand there and look at, I mean, people screaming in their faces. We saw people walking around with machetes. We saw people around like banging things with their skateboards. All of these people mentally disturbed and probably on substances, but putting them in that position as well. I mean, no wonder so many people want to leave Vancouver and Canada because those are the few jobs that they can also find. I'll read your comments now.
Oh, we have some comments. Perfect.
Yes, we have quite a bit. Sirius says, worried face. I'm guessing about the first story we did on Canada.
Oh, yeah.
Sirius also says...
Well, the worrying thing about that isn't because Canada has gone so ideological when it comes to transitioning children, and man, the infrastructure is just set legislatively. So it's so ingrained into that culture. I'm surprised more if this doesn't happen, but now the fact that it has happened, they're going to use this as an excuse to take guns. I guarantee you this is going to...
They have already started talking about that.
They needed an excuse because they were already trying to do the gun grab. They already had the legislation set. They were already trying to take guns from Canadians. This is just going to be the excuse they use.
Sirius also says, I hope this tragedy awakens Canada. It won't.
No, not at all.
Because they haven't been awoken.
Absolutely hopeless, especially because it happened, I believe, in BC.
Yeah, in BC.
Yeah.
Tumbler Ridge.
BC is one of the wokest provinces within Canada.
Yeah.
So.
And Vancouver is a woke city.
Yeah.
Sirius also says, thank you, Nat and Guy, for this news. And also, I will say thank you to Juno News, who broke the actual news, who spoke to the uncle of the deranged person that committed this crime, but also to Billboard Chris, because he has been going around clarifying and showing the actual pictures of this person, because a lot of other pictures were going around and it was incorrect. So he has been trying to set the record straight. And I will also say, Billboard Chris, go follow him. He's great. He advocates against the mutilation and the usage of children by the ideology.
Well, also, just the police department within Canada absolutely fumbled this. They tried to play games with not wanting to identify whether this was a man, whether this was a woman, what actually happened. And independent media really put the fire under their feet. So if this situation happens again, I don't think they're going to handle it the same way because they know independent media is watching them now.
But we also do know that they had implemented, after a different tragedy a few years ago, they implemented special protocols, and they were using that as an excuse as to why they hadn't released the information or the number of victims or anything about it. And then they were pressed and they had to.
Yeah. This is making
because the internet found out before.
Well, this is making major international news, and it's a good thing because people need to really shine a light on what's going on in Canada, especially under the Liberals under the last 15 years.
And the ideological derangement that they're all under.
Well, and it's only going to get worse. If he actually aligns with China like he's kind of signaling, I could only imagine what's going to happen to Canada next. The fact that we fled the country when we did, it was the right time to do so.
Yeah, we already separated from Canada, so Alberta, get on
a lot of Canadians have already left Canada. That, especially the ones that would vote to have Alberta separate.
Or would vote conservative for common sense. Rafa says, now we're supposed to feel empathy for these loonies? That's the problem. Canada has been feeling empathy and using empathy as a weapon, as we spoke about with Albert Saki, talking about that, for 10, 15 years. And the insanity has been now legislated because of feelings and empathy and using that to pass insane laws and provisions that have gotten people like this to extremes like we're seeing now. And this is a consequence that we're seeing now.
Yeah, this is no longer just a cultural thing in Canada. Even if the culture changes in Canada, the legislation is ingrained.
And the people that defend the legislation and all of this is also ingrained. Sirius says, wasn't there a kid who took kittens from life wasn't the kid who took kittens' lives from Canada? Yeah, right? There's a documentary called Don't F with Cats.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that.
I think he was Canadian, but he had some other
was he from Montreal, I believe?
Yeah, but he was his parents were from somewhere else, I think.
We watched
the documentary.
With an M, I think.
I don't remember the name, but we watched the documentary. It's on Netflix.
Okay.
But yeah, it's called Don't F with Cats. Sirius says, I saw a documentary on it. The internet solved the case like usual. And again, in this case that we're just seeing now, the internet and independent news solved it and talked to someone to verify the information as well before they even posted it. So due diligence was there too. Sirius says, Canada built most of that bridge? I didn't know. I didn't know about the bridge.
Well, it's not done yet. That's the thing. It's entering its final stages of completion, and it needs Donald Trump to sign off on it. Yet he wants to go mess around with China, mess around with all kinds of other trade deals, stuff like this. He's going to have you're not just going to buy some F-16 and Donald Trump's going to open the bridge for you. That's not how it's going to work. It's all going to come together in one big package, just how Donald Trump's dealing with Mexico. And Donald Trump's willing to give leeway to Carney to speak what he wants to his base, to play up to Trump derangement syndrome, as long as he cooperates behind the scenes for the benefit of America and Canada, much like what's going on with Mexico. And Canadians really don't understand what's going on with Mexico and how Mexico is really having a boom right now because of the tariffs.
Even if Mexicans, it doesn't feel like it. It will start soon.
Yeah. Well, the big statistic I quote here is 1 out of 4 dollars that the United States is taking back from China is going directly into Mexico. They want to make Mexico the new China overall. A lot of the manufacturing, the low-end manufacturing, the United States is now giving to Mexico. So it's start to finish manufacturing rather than the Chinese manufacturing. Basically what that was is they would make almost the complete car or almost the complete product, ship it to Mexico and just put the finishing touches on it. So it wasn't a real manufacturing job. So.
And Rafa says, Gastown, that sounds like Mad Max Citadel.
It kind of was.
It has a name.
But it's very nice because it's the oldest part of Vancouver.
It's the oldest part of Vancouver. I could get into the history and also how the Wokes completely destroyed the history of Gastown. They removed a freaking statue because they claimed that the man behind the statue that had kind of been representative of Gastown, which has a steam clock, and okay, whatever. That he had been doing disgusting things to Indigenous women and girls. So they threw red paint all over the statue and then they removed it. And then they left the red paint on the beautiful cobblestone that covers the streets of Gastown.
Well, yeah, if you ever go to Vancouver, Water Street is really beautiful, but Skid Row is only like 2 blocks over. So you have to be really careful of that area because it's the most beautiful area of Vancouver, but just a couple blocks over is one of the more dangerous
and
areas.
Very dangerous. And we would walk the dog and there would be needles all over the place and baggies. And I mean, it was not safe. And you didn't let me walk around after night, but I didn't want to.
Okay, let's keep going.
And Sirius says, sounds like California. You know the comparison. I don't.
Yeah,
because you live there.
But it's more integrated into the city, so people will walk through there. And because there's so many welfare programs, people aren't robbing you as much. It's more you're getting assaulted because of mental illness in Canada. In California, it's more monetary crimes that are going on combined with mental illness. Okay, let's go into Asia. And the first story is absolutely heartbreaking for me that's coming out of Asia right now.
Hold on, I need my button. There. Yeah, we don't use the Asia button too often because we have gotten censored for talking about it before.
Well, not just because I still talk about it, but on X, they kind of censored the story, so it's hard to get a lot of good information coming out of Asia.
So from Lord Bibo, quote, Hong Kong tycoon Jimmy Lai sentenced to 20 years of prison sparks outrage among U.S. officials. Let's briefly go over what Lai said.
Jimmy Lai is an absolute masterclass of a guy. He represents free speech. He represents American values in China, which is very impressive. He comes out of Hong Kong. So,
and Hong Kongese people are different.
Man, the world really needs more people like Jimmy Lai. It's a shame. And he's willing to do the 20 years with a smile. So good on him. But there needs to be pressure put on China to release this man. Canada's not going to do it because they're working hand in hand with the Chinese government now. And they want more censorship. So they love to see stories like this.
And by backing us, the American also showing to the world of their moral authority. Because we are the only place in China, a tiny island in China, which is sharing your values, which is fighting the same war you have with China. If we think that we are starting a Cold War with China today, A Cold War is a war of competing values.
Pause it for a
And
second.
we
Yeah, and he ran, I think it was called the Apple Daily. It was one of the big papers over there that really stood up against the government. And now I guess he's paying the consequences here, and it's a shame. He has a lot of businesses in Canada, and a lot of his family lives in Canada. So there's a lot of pressure from people in Canada trying to pressure the Canadian government to kind of stand up here and give him honorary citizenship, and then pressure the Chinese government to release him into Canadian custody. I just don't think Mark Carney's going to do it.
No.
On your side, sacrificing our life, our freedom, everything we have, fighting this war in the frontier for you. Should you support us? This is something that America has to know. Not only supporting us, but use your moral authority in this Cold War to win this war. In the beginning, because they have nothing. It's like they are like going to the battle without any weapon, and you have the nuclear weapon. You can finish them in a minute. And you have the nuclear weapon. You can finish them in a minute.
I mean,
yeah, it's just a shame to see the West betraying its free speech values. But this man was actually willing to stand on everything he had to stand up to a tyrannical government and represent free speech in the best possible way.
And I mean, people in Hong Kong have been trying to do this for the longest time because, again, they have a different history. And
he was the leader of that entire movement.
Yeah.
So, and my heart really goes out to him. I hope the best for him. And I hope governments around the world can get their act together, start realizing free speech is an important thing, and they need to pressure the Chinese government for his release.
And he didn't have a terrible idea there, I will say. From Times Radio, quote, "What can we possibly expect from a relationship with China? Britain can normalize relations with China when a British citizen, Jimmy Lai, is in prison in a horrible condition."
And this is his son, who now lives, I believe, in Toronto, and most of his family does as well.
It was expected, but it makes it no less heartbreaking and devastating. I think there was a moment of sort of bittersweet moment, I should say, when they passed the sentence, and my father was stoic. Here's a man who's given all he can to his beliefs. He was stoic, and he even flashed a smile. In almost like a little act of rebellion. He wasn't going to show any sadness. And in some sense, we knew that this was going to happen. He knew that it was going to happen even 30 years ago when he first started campaigning for democracy, that this was a very high possibility. But he did so regardless because it was the right thing to do.
Now, I know for you and for the rest of your family, Sebastian, this is a deeply personal family story and something you are incredibly closely connected to. I suppose for the rest of us, the fate of your father might be seen as, let's be honest, another failure of Keir Starmer's leadership. He was in China. He was supposed to make the case for your father, and the result is a 20-year prison sentence. What would you say about that?
Many people have called out for my father's release. The Prime Minister said that he mentioned it to Xi Jinping, and this is an opportunity because, as we get closer relationships with China.
Yeah, and how can you take somebody like Keir Starmer, who's bringing in mass censorship to the UK, to actually put real pressure on China, or Mark Carney, who's trying to bring mass censorship to Canada?
With China.
To actually, I mean, it's like you're going to speak out both sides of your mouth. When they say something to Xi Jinping, he's going to laugh at them and point right back at their own country and say, you're just as bad as us.
China, issues like my father's case can be raised. He said that it's a priority, and I am inclined to believe him. But look, this is a test. This is a litmus test because we gave a AAA and an embassy away to China, and we haven't really seen anything come back to this nation. And if they're not even willing to put a 78-year-old man on a plane whose business they've taken away, health they destroyed, then what can we possibly expect from a relationship with China? How can we normalize relationships when there's this huge glaring issue of my father's imprisonment that we will never normalize? We will never normalize a British citizen who is in these horrible conditions that he's in for standing up for what is right. That is something that is unacceptable.
Okay. Yeah, and hopefully something changes with that situation over time.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go into the Middle East now if we can.
But I think they're British.
Okay, let's go into the Middle East now if we can.
Oh, and really quickly, before we go to the Middle East, thank you so much to Rafa for the 100 peso super chat.
Oh, thank you.
And he says, off-topic super chat, is any one of you a car guy? I just bought a 1976 Oldsmobile Tornado,
Oh,
but
wow.
don't tell or ask again. It's a surprise for my wife. Okay.
Oh, that is fantastic. Yeah, I'm a big car guy and I love muscle cars. And they're my absolute favorite. That's a fantastic car.
But I guess Rafa didn't get to hear the news of why we're recording so late, and it's because today we had car issues of our own.
Yeah, our car broke down in a bad neighborhood in Mexico City when we were trying to get pet food, and then somehow I got it freaking started, and then it broke down again at the grocery store. But by that time, I got a jump starting kit. So yeah.
But that's why we were late, because we were
And
dealing with
the
damn
car's
car.
only a year old, which is crazy. So
Don't buy new cars.
that are electric.
I will continue to say, or even half electric, or even new cars, because Toyota is also, the non-electric ones are also failing now.
Yeah.
Which is insane. But yes, thank you so much, Rafa, for that super chat, and congrats on the 1967. That's old. Oldsmobile Tornado.
Yeah,
I'll
but that's when
Google
they
it.
used to build real cars,
Yeah.
and you could the engine. You're gonna just hear, oh, that thing's gonna be amazing.
I don't know much about cars, but I'll Google it to see what it looks like. And Rafa also says, not sure if she's gonna like their surprise though. Does she like cars?
It's more of a surprise for you than for her.
But I mean, they're having a lot of changes in their lives soon. So, I mean, this is just another one. So that's good.
Yeah.
And he says, I'm sorry. Feel free to ask me a car questions if you need. I might DM you about it because there is some things that I'm curious about because he watches and knows a lot about cars. Rafa does. But now let's move on to, what are we moving
The
on?
Middle East.
Okay. And we still haven't changed the flag. So sorry about that. But interestingly, today's story actually does fit the flag because from Derek Evans' quote, police in India arrested 11 people who issued over 100,000 fake university degrees in medicine, nursing, and engineering. How many of these people are in medical practice or engineering firms in America or Canada or anywhere else?
Yeah, there's a ton of these stories coming out of these diploma mills in India. They're huge. Okay, and you can leave it there. Yeah, and this is a real issue, and this is why, like, Canada wants to say, oh, we need to get doctors from overseas and then bring them here. Well, no, they need to go to school there, be certified there if you want them working in Canada because of things like this that happen a lot.
But also, I mean, speaking of diploma mills in India, there is also a lot of agents and people that have completely rigged the student visa system in Canada.
Yeah.
And so, like, it also connects, and a lot of people have been defrauded because of that.
Wait, let's go into Africa, and then we're going to go over to RUMBLE after.
And sorry, Sirius tells Rafa that it's a trophy. Again, don't know much about cars. I'll Google it after. But yes, let's go to Africa, which we almost never go to. Africa.
And we were talking about the story quite a bit. I just wanted to bring it up again as kind of a refresher. Bill Maher was talking about it, so I thought it was a good time.
From Thomas Sowell quotes, quote, if you don't know what's going on in Nigeria, your media sources suck.
If you don't know what's going on in Nigeria, your media sources suck. You are in a bubble. Not, and again, I'm not a Christian, but they are systematically killing the Christians in Nigeria. They've killed over 100,000 since 2009. They've burned 18,000 churches. This is so much more. These are their Islamists, Boko Haram. This is so much more of a genocide attempt than what is going on in Gaza. They are literally attempting to wipe out the Christian population of an entire country. Where are the kids protesting this?
Absolutely. It's Africa. That's why no one's talking about it, and they should be. You can't read about it in mainstream media. It's sad, so thank you for bringing
Well,
it
because
up.
the Jews aren't involved. That's why. It's the Christians and the Muslims. Who cares? If you don't know what's going on.
Yeah, and good on Bill Maher for bringing it up because he is an atheist, a famous atheist. So the fact that he's bringing it up, has to be atrocious on what's going on there. Trump has spoken up against it, and he says he's sending soldiers over there, not permanent boots on the ground, but hopefully he can fix at least some of what's going on there.
Yes. and that more people actually know what's happening as well, because I'm guessing also even a lot of Christians themselves don't know much about the story either. But now we're heading over to RUMBLE. Please don't forget to subscribe here on YouTube. It really does help us out, and we're trying to get to 1,000
Yeah, we're getting very close to 1,000, so...
And also, thank you so much to Rafa for the super chat, and congrats on your new car and the gift for your wife. But also, thank you so much to Sirius, to Non, and to everybody else who sent chats, because without you, the show essentially wouldn't exist. And now it continues over on RUMBLE, so follow us there, and it's all spicy stories.
Rafa should maybe get a gift card for his wife as well. To her favorite store, and then give them both at the same time.
I mean, at least let her drive it, I guess, if it's a gift for her. But yes, okay. We'll see you over on RUMBLE in a few seconds.